will guide you. A new world is waiting.
Hey there, SMITE fans, and welcome back. We are finally ready to kick off SMITE Summer Masters here for our semifinals and finals weekend. I'm Jay Mac. I got Mifflin joining me here on the desk as we get ready to jump you guys in. We know it's been a while. It's been a little bit of time, at least trying to get things going through, so we're going to try and get this going as quickly as possible. Let's take a look, though, at the bracket to see what you have missed last week and what you can expect for the remainder of this weekend. We had the whole preliminary bracket with all of our SCC teams in. Out of those ones, Hex, Mambo, Niflheim, and Wargs jump up. Hex Mambo actually able to make it up into the quarterfinals and then suffer a loss to the Oni Warriors. And then the Jade Dragons found their win over the Camelot Kings. That'll be our first semi of today. Will be the Warriors and the Dragons. And then we saw the Eldritch Hounds find their win over the Wargs. And then the Hounds defeated the Ravens. And then Six Ferrymen found their win over the Atlantis Leviathans. That'll be our second one. Will be between the Hounds and the Ravens. But as I said, we've got the Oni Warriors and the Jade Dragons. Our first semi, a best of 5. To see who will move on to the grand final. It should be an exciting set ahead for us, Speaker Mifflin.
Yeah, I think this one is going to be very telling. If you guys were watching the waiting room a little bit earlier on today, I made it very clear who I think the favorite is in this matchup and for the rest of this tournament. That is the Oni Warriors. But that's not to say that the Jade Dragons haven't looked good as well. They have certainly looked much better, taking a decisive win up against the Camelot Kings. Very impressive, but I think their hardest opponent is here.
We can jump ourselves now right into the picks and bans for game number 1 of this best of 5 semi between the Warriors and the Dragons. And I think for me, probably the most important thing is the adaptation from week 1 of Masters to week 2. Week 1, pro players, they had a little bit of time to kind of scrim on the servers, had a little bit of opportunity before Masters start off, and then server goes live with the new patch on Tuesday. On Thursday, we're already playing games. So we kind of get like that immediate emergent style of meta, but now we get to see kind of how the dust has settled a little bit and kind of see now what rises up in this current style of play for the SPL teams. Oni Warriors will start out their bans with a Serket and a Hell. Opposite side, Jade Dragons will take away both Thor and Set, surprisingly.
Yeah, I wonder where the priority really truly does lie. I've seen still a good deal of emphasis on sustain. Ra seems to be back in the meta. The standard warrior is still there. Hercules has taken a bit of a dive in placement on the tier list, but otherwise the Guan Yus, the Horuses, still certainly very valuable as well. Hunters seem to be a major topic of conversation right now. Martichoras, of course, really does facilitate that double hunter composition. If the Oni Warriors elect to go down that path, I would not be surprised. I think I would legitimately be surprised if they didn't. Anyway, it feels like if you're going to take just one hunter, you don't really want it to just be Marty. And this is why I'm glad we didn't go directly into what the priority picks were going to be. You could have given me 15, 20 minutes. Oh, how long has it been? You could have given me 2.5 hours or an hour and a half, however long we've delayed here. I would never have predicted this Jormungandr in first slot.
I mean, the only team that we were seeing any bans against it, I believe, is the Eldritch Hounds. Ducky had that god banned away from him, but outside of that, no other signs of the Jorm. It'll be Jormungandr and Cernunnos popping up. Interesting from there, considering pretty much all of last week, we were seeing a Hachiman and Ram top 2 meta. In fact, Hachiman still being sort of that #1 hunter slot. So seeing Cernunnos, which was kind of the 3rd place out of those hunters, make his way through. Maybe a sign here for the Jade Dragons. But Oni Warriors, they did take that Atlas ban. That's a big sign of respect over towards Mike. It's something he played against the Camelot Kings, won his game with. And it's one of those comfort picks that he's been going over towards. And maybe same regard to the Aphrodite. One of the only players who is finding success on that god in the league has been Jake. And that leaves open the Achilles, which has really kind of bumped his way up in the meta, whether that be in the jungle or, as we've been seeing a lot more so than the jungle, over in the solo lane.
Yeah, flexibility between those two roles, to be sure. And for some reason, I feel like I have to mention it. It's a long shot, but it is the 408 on the Oni Warriors. Maybe an Achilles support here. We've seen that way back in the past. Been a couple of years since then, but Jake has always been one to go towards very aggressive warriors in role. I'm thinking back to Olympus Bolt's Jake, locking in tier support week in and week out. So we'll see how the rest of this draft starts to line out for the Oni Warriors. What I think we can really glean from this top 3 that it is a singular hunter composition. That singular hunter being Martichoras, as Baba Yaga very likely to hold it down in mid. Just scales incredibly well into the late game. Doesn't have a poor early game either. Feels like to me the Oni Warriors have the potential just now with the top 3 to play through pressure early on, which is a slight departure from what we had seen from them in their last set, which was much more drawn out.
Currently an Agni Hover by the Jade Dragons. Let's see if that one does get locked in for Dardez in the mid lane. And then it's just a question of what jungle pickups do we inevitably see after that, because Jade Dragons, they'll have their first selection of the jungle, should they like to not draft that one here in this place once those ban phases are done. So we'll have to see what's even still left at that point. We know that Susano has been a very comfort pick, at least over for Panitom. We'll see if that one makes it through. Bakasura is also up there in the wheelhouse of this player. A lot of options available in that role in particular, which is why I think that's where maybe some of the most intrigue, at least of the picks and bans, come from for the second half. Yeah,
junglers in general, I think, some of the more interesting selections that either side could go for, as they've got so much control on the pace of the game early on. So Agni Hover, heavily considered by the Jade Dragons. Agni fits just about any composition. Would have been fine to take it there. It's not as if there was anything you'd really be concerned about locked in up against you. But with so many mages still available, I think I agree with the Jade Dragons, their decision to go towards Horus here. You get a little bit of linear initiation, displacement for your ally, some sustain. If fights go long, having a Horus on your side, always going to be really useful. And Jormungandr solo is in an interesting position in that the majority of meta soul laners do have a good deal of CC. The Tears of the world, the King Arthur, single target sure, Hercules as well. Jormungandr is not exactly in that conversation. You've got the knock-up out of stealth, and you've got the knock-up off of ultimate, but for the most part, that ultimate, very avoidable. And so you have to make up that CC somewhere else. Between Cern and Horus, I think you've got enough for your team fight. Wild Hunt, AoE CC should put threat on relics, and Horus in that single target can make use of those burnt relics.
Well, now with the Horus selected, Jade Dragons jump into the banning phase for themselves. A Nox ban up against Jake, which was one of his premier picks all of last season, and definitely at the start of this season was one of his best selections and one of his more winning gods. Opposite end, a little ban over towards the jungle side. Nemesis taken away by the Oni Warriors, and the Yemoja now for the Jade Dragons, with their support locked in, making sure to try and keep the 408 off of some of those more top-tier style of picks by taking both the Nox and the Yemoja away from him. We see the Oni Warriors taking their shot at LASBRA. I'm trying to think what other gods maybe take away from LASBRA at this point. Maybe the Hunbats is something that he's gone to a couple of times. You got the Serket and the Nemesis, kind of his top selections. Instead, it's the Aokwang. Not many junglers in the league are playing the Aokwang. Immediately to mind, I think of players like Oath and Adapting kind of as those top ones. Didn't really fit LASBRA so much for an Aokwang player, though.
Yeah, but this event has taught me that Aokwang is solidly within the meta. Johnny as well has had some phenomenal performances on it. And so, taking away a late game hyper carry, taking away an execute, I think valuable. And the Oni Warriors will put their eyes there. That does, as you said, leave Bakasura available. Jade Dragons could decide to take it for themselves here. Instead, eyes on comfort and safety. Jingwei locked in for the Jade Dragons. Good luck locking her down in lane. If you want to kill Jingwei, those opportunities generally come much later. Just so safe thanks to that airstrike, the ability to deal with any form of knock-up. So if Baba Yaga is barrel stuffing with her ultimate on transformation, Jingwei should be able to displace herself with relative ease. And it's not as if she's got any poor matchups either. But it is a departure from the standard Hunter meta. Cern likely for mid now. You're lacking a little bit of pressure there. I mean, it's really good on objectives. You're going to have phenomenal objective burn. One of these Hunters could go down the crit build, which would force out some Spectral Armors on the Oni Warriors. But it is a non-standard double Hunter composition. When I think of two Hunters, it's not exactly these two.
Sobek and Daji, the final two picks for the Oni Warriors. A comfort pick for Panitom, and something that we don't really usually see for Jake over in the support role on the Sobek. We have seen some Sobek, maybe kind of tying back to what you were mentioning, the potential likelihood that we could see an Achilles go over to support, though. As you mentioned, it has been some time since we've seen that. But now when I think of LASBRA, Ratatoskr is definitely one of those gods that comes to mind. So Daji, Ratatoskr, kind of talk to me about maybe the curve for these two junglers as the game goes through. Is this a early game style of play for the Jade Dragons with this Ratatoskr? Is this one that you want to scale a little bit later on for the Oni Warriors? How do these two junglers kind of want to play these picks?
Rat's going to have more impact in the early game for sure. The ability to just get involved anywhere on map thanks to your global presence, the ability to stun out some of these channeled abilities as well, the 1,000 cuts from Daji, means that Rat should have more impact. Once we're about 3 items in a build on both junglers, Daji's just going to have much more burst potential, also much more threatening CC. The Palau just so good in the team fight. So for the early, I'd say keep your eyes on LASBRA. He'll be the pace setter. He'll be the one dictating the ganks for the most part. I imagine we see Panitom playing spoiler to those ganks, just show up, try and slow things down for him And then once we get to that late game team fight, there's going to be a clear shift in value between these assassins, just really heavily favoring the Daji in a post 25 minutes world. And I think that might just be true of this composition as a whole. I just much prefer how the Oni Warriors comp is going to play in the 5-on-5. The Jade Dragons have got good pick potential for sure, but it seems like it's pretty difficult to really leverage a couple of picks in the early game into a substantiated lead. Gold Fury seems difficult to knock down in the current patch. Pyromancer, yeah, sure, but it's really that Runic Bomb, and if that's the case with a composition like this from the Jade Dragons, which I would argue is very defensive, it'd be hard to use that Runic Bomb as well. I'm curious to see how it plays out. This is a very different look at the Jade Dragons.
Now, given that this is a double hunter composition, does it really matter, at least in your mind, where one of these two hunters goes? And the reason I ask that is because we actually do have some insight. This is Jing going to Dardez in mid. So does that maybe kind of change your identity of this team, or is this still at its core just a double hunter comp, no matter if the Cern or the Jing is going mid?
Yeah, for the most part, when you try and figure out which hunter goes mid, you generally put the pressure hunter in mid, whichever one can shove waves in more consistently and be involved in those mid-camp fights or red buff invades or things along those lines. Jing Wei brings a good deal less pressure than Cern, I think. It's much safer. So if you're concerned about Daji rotations or maybe Achilles rotating into some of these team fights, put your Jing in mid. She's going to be very safe there. But the flip side of that coin is now it's much easier to gank in the duo lane, and kills in duo tend to lead to Gold Furies, whereas kills in mid, you at least still have duo lane to defend. Jing mid, I'm not sure how much of a defense she's going to put up.
Well, the Oni Warriors are still on a hot streak for themselves. They were 14-0, or 13-0 coming into the event. They found a win last week, notched up to 14. Can they keep that going to 15, or can the Jade Dragons be the team to stop them in their tracks? Let's start it all off in game number 1 with Gore and Trelly.
Thanks so much, J-Mac. That's right, it's Gore, it's Trelly, and of course showing us everything visually. It's going to be Doug, and it is very much, Trelly, on that note, right? The Warriors, undefeated from formation to now, and the Dragons in a position to try and end that, and should things go wrong for them, somebody else is going to have the opportunity to do so. It seems like chat is leaning towards the Warriors. Mifflin was leaning towards the Warriors. And we don't get anything too crazy like an Achilles in the support role. It is just going to be the Sobek over there. But I do want to ask you, because I feel like we've seen it occasionally with the European SCC teams. I haven't seen it as much for a while. A little over a week now to cook on the patch. A lot more time to invest for these teams. What's your experience with the Jormungandr and the current season of Souls?
Yeah, it seems like the Yorm's been getting banned away a bit, right? I know that Ducky was very upset that it got banned away from a lot of his sets recently, so something that's been cooking in the background. You know, a lot of these Soul
They let it
have been
marinate
enjoying
for a
it.
little
Yeah,
while.
we haven't gotten to see it, unfortunately, on broadcast, but I'm guessing in scrims and in ranked games, the Yorm has been annoying to deal with. He's probably one of the safer solo laners you can go for, where, yeah, you can still build tanky, but you can build sort of damage, a little hybrid, and you're able to put yourself out of position, get out with the World Serpent, and just so annoying to lane up against, right? His clear is ridiculous.
He almost always comes up in that discussion. Like when we're talking solo laners that are really good at not losing, Yorm has always been in that conversation.
Yep.
It's just every now and then there hits a meta where he's also good at winning the lane alongside it. But like you said, like safety, very akin to what you would maybe expect from like a Sun Wukong.
Yep.
Except maybe even better because the ult does a lot, gets you pretty far. It's going to be fun to watch what Nika's able to do with that one. Did anything else stand out to you in the draft? I mean, the Daji pick late normally to me screams somebody's messed up and there's not enough CC immunity on the other side. Anything like that stand out to you?
I mean, the Jingwei mid is definitely a little odd. It's Dardez, of course. It's a pick that he just likes throwing to. And when I say a pick, I don't mean the Jingwei. I mean any hunter, really. He is like, hey, I'll play Rama. I'll play whatever as long as it makes the team synergize a bit more or gives us that late game potential. Dardez will lock in just about anything, so the Jingwei should be getting just pushed in, right? The clear is not there, the early pressure is not there. Later on, of course, Jingwei might be able to come online. You can diversify crit and shred, which I think could be beneficial in a meta like this, but it is a bit odd. If you're asking anything that's jumping out at me, that's definitely top on the list.
And in my mind, you know, I see Jingwei, I think, okay, you know what, if you're going mid, maybe it's something to do with the passive, right? You could rotate. But just like you said, it's going to take a while to get online, so it's not like you're getting crazy early rotations because your passive is nuts. It's just like, you can make it back to lane after you get bopped kind of hard.
Yep.
Who knows? Maybe there's some sort of synergy. I mean, they've got a Ratatoskr, right, to help offset maybe some of the pressure Jing is going to be receiving to try and push back against the Warriors. But Trelly, it feels like the Warriors are a team that you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. I mean, they love to run it down. Like, the ideal pace for them over the last few months, this entire season, has been as fast as they can possibly make it. And sometimes it goofs up for them, sometimes they stumble, but they usually get back up and go back into a full sprint. So it feels like Pegon is going to be the easiest place for them to say, cool, let's just put all our pressure right there, get him super far ahead, and then we'll figure everything out from there.
And it does get a little bit easier with the changes that have come to mid lane recently. You know, before this patch, the mid lane was a bit smaller. You could sort of get under tower very easily. It wasn't as wide. Because of that, you can catch mid laners out a bit if you're able to stun a dash. In this case, if Dashi finds a nice pull, if Dardez is left without beads without airstrike, could be some trouble. On the opposite side, LASBRA, you brought it up. He does have the ability to get active early with this blink on Ratatoskr. Finds a good stun onto Pegon when he tries to use the blast off to get away. Could be some aggression there as well. So you're right to highlight it. This mid lane could be where some sparks are flying early on.
We also saw, at least for me, Baba Yaga, like last week, was kind of surprisingly void. I feel like there were a lot of opportunities where it's like, all right, Baba's open, let's lock her in. Let's lock her in. For a while, I think she had maintained the 100% pick ban. But towards the end of the week, she started disappearing. Mage builds have been a really big topic of conversation. And since the Dragons have made it impossible to talk about it for their side, we can talk about it specifically with Pegon. Do you think the builds right now, like, you know, Baba's passive, stacking items, is that something you can go into? Are you avoiding those? I mean, where do you want to go with this god to get the absolute max amount of damage?
We have seen a few different styles of builds since this patch came through. It's been a lot of E-Staff, a lot of, you know, early Charon's coin. Of course, the Baba, the Prophetic Cloak has been a thing. We've even seen the Warlock stacking coming back. So if you're going first item into that staff, it most likely is the Warlock, just because Baba gets, you know, pretty good value from it. But at this point, I'm thinking, you know, a little bit tankier in the mid lane builds has been the call, just because you want a bit more survivability. You want HP steal as opposed to just raw damage output. You're not looking for that early burst damage any longer. You're kind of looking to win that sustained fight by proccing Soul Reaver and Ethereal Staff, things like that. And looks like Nika is going to be starting towards that more damage-oriented route, right? That first item is not going to be something like a breastplate. More than likely the Chronos pendant, maybe even, you know, just that full damage orb that we've heard so much about and we've seen at times, but not in this meta.
I mean, especially what we just saw looking at Sot's health bar right now.
Yep.
Maybe not the most comfortable lane that he's going to be in. We also saw a little bit, though, of what the Sobek is meant to bring. Didn't get a kill, doesn't have that maybe same pressure, right? Netrioid. Marty does a lot of damage, but we're typically talking about him in about 15 minutes. Right now we might be talking about the duo lane, but a little early. LASBRA was in the jungle. And he's still just hovering around right there. There's a ward between him and the duo lane of the Warriors. Seems like he's not going to be able to get in there. Doesn't have that level 5, can't jump over. So he's just going to have to back off right here. But the Sobek plucks are the alternative to that, right? If LASBRA is not getting aggressive, Jake is the one who gets to determine pretty much more or less when a fight happens in duo.
Yep, can control the early game with a pick like this. Later on, the Sobek does have a bit of fall off, but the idea is you're pulling beads for Panitom, his life gets so much easier, then you're able to find some foul-outs. You were talking about CC immunity, really only Vote that's going to be feeling the brunt of that, and if Mike's on point, he will be able to find a nice to the skies on landing to pull away from the foul-out, but either way, the damage is what I'm looking at. This Daji was top of the meta for a while because of how much early she was able to, you know, use that gank opportunity at level 5, but then the damage just scales so well late game, especially with things like a Hydra's Pegon. Taking a lot of damage here trying to fight over a green buff.
Looks like it's still going to be successful from Mike. A little bit of poke back. Pluck, all right, but there's not a lot of follow-up. Everybody else went right. They're just going to farm things up. And that's kind of the other part of this, right? You had mentioned early game for Panitom and specifically on the Daji. Although now this fight might get a little more interesting. Pluck just off the mark from Jake. I think that should be enough to get Mike out of there, away from the damage of Netrioid. And away from the damage of who I've been trying to talk about, Panitom, who has just been insane in the right circumstances. I feel like we had a large meta last year where Daji was huge. And it feels like if he can get off to the right foot, could fall into that same category. Has the powwow, walking up towards the shield buff now. Does he want to go in for the fight? Vote has ult, Mike does not. And it seems like the team's just going to pick up the shield buff and let the Dragons run away.
Yep, smart call. You don't have your ultimate there. Mike would have been pulled back in and probably an easy first blood. So get away from the powwow and do not give Panitom that option. Solo lane is somewhere where I thought we might see some sparks fly, but given the fact that Sot's been playing relatively underneath tower, he is just getting out cleared as you expect from a Yorm. And the fact that Nika can just go into that World Serpent at really any point that Panitom heads over means that fighting does not seem to be the call over on the right side of the map. We've seen 2 attempted ganks towards the left, but it has been more so, hey, we got a shield buff, I'm going to head over there, I'm going to look for something. If I can't find it, I'm going to back up. But through the Cosmos, LASBRA can get active over on the right side of the map at any given moment, so you got to make sure your vision's on point. And I'm pretty sure Panitom called this one out. There's a Ratatoskr lurking by.
If there's anything I've learned over the years, you probably don't want to 1v1 the dodgy. Although early on, maybe LASBRA has a little bit of an edge. Tries to avoid it the best he can, and does avoid it. But like you said, with both junglers getting caught out, Eyes kind of slowing them down, stalling out those ults. It's a back for Panitom, and then the farm game here for LASBRA. And I'm kind of expecting that to be where things pop off, right? You know, we talked a little bit about Sobek, but there's some good disengage from Mike and Vote that a pluck, unless it's at the perfect time, is not going to be the end-all be-all over there. It feels like these junglers are the ones that are going to determine where first blood happens.
Yeah, certainly will. I mean, just look at already, there's a massive gold lead building up. You may be wondering, where is that at, right? Duo lane for the Warriors is ahead. Pegon's a level up on Dardez. It's just Nika. I mean, he's been clearing waves, which Achilles just cannot do. He does not have that ability to get these last hits. 800 gold just by getting those last hits on the minions, where Eset, I mean, with this build he's went for, he has Bluestone to try and get a couple more, but a lot of this wave has been dying in tower, and because of that, the Yorm's going to pull ahead just naturally. LASBRA's going to gravitate to the right side of the map because, like, wait, you got pressure, don't you? You can clear out, you can force a dash. If Sot's able to get the fatal strike off, shouldn't care too much about the rattle, but you got to worry about body blocks. Of course, LASBRA still does have the blink, things like that. And especially when you have a magical solo laner you're up against, you're not building that defense.
It's a lot harder to try and work it in, because then you feel awkward. You start rotating in, all of a sudden the jungler and the carries are shredding you. I mean, you build any magical defense here, and it's literally just Nika that you're worried about. So maybe something Sot's going to have to, well, not even maybe, absolutely something Sot's going to have to figure out and overcome. Right now, though, it's Panitom trying to get away, has barely any health to his name. One more auto, but up on the powwow. He's looking for some pulls, doesn't connect onto LASBRA with the chains, gets him there, gets the CC, walks on out of there. Now the damage is on the other side. Pegon gets a little bit onto LASBRA, but he's up onto the tree, bounces away. Jake caught out of position and killed off Mike. Gets first blood 7 minutes in.
I cannot believe that Panitom was able to get up into the powwow there. Unfortunately, still loses the first blood. The Warriors, that is, with the Jade Dragons off of a beautiful gank. And Jake trying to set up to save his jungler ends up falling down. LASBRA was up in the sky. I was wondering if he was going to go in and try and just trade for the kill, but Panitom had blink, and that wasn't a trade he was willing to take. And so the Sobek goes down, and PBM gets the first blood there. Not the best option, but hey, as long as you're getting first blood, I'm pretty sure you're happy with that one. Could have gone to someone else, but you just wanted to guarantee that confirmation.
You just needed the kill at this point.
You just need to guarantee that lead and continue pushing forward. And so far, the Jade Dragons have been finding very good success this early on.
Yeah, you had mentioned it, just shy of 2,000 gold at this point. And that's off of a first blood and a really, really solid solo lane right now. Hovering around 1,800, but you know, we're starting to enter the conversation 8 minutes in, around the time we've seen some really early Gold Furies. And then give it another few minutes and we'll be talking about Pyromancers. Might even be looking at more kills. Or at least invades. LASBRA and Nika walk in, take the blue buff. Dardez and Mike try to make Pegon's life just miserable. And so far it seems to be successful enough. They've been able to strip away the green buff fairly often. Panitom finally able to turn that one back. And so right now, I would argue that the Warriors are stifling the lead for the Dragons, but not quite showcasing what they can do to pull it back.
Yeah, and it's a little unfortunate because the Oni Warriors are leaning more towards late game, right? You've got Pegon stacking up Warlocks. Awesome Jake is going for that prophetic cloak. All of these items, and I would say characters as well, given the Marty and the Daji, you want to wait a bit to get online, are slating towards late game, but the Jade Dragons have no problem sitting back and saying, hey, let's get these double ADCs online, right? We haven't seen Dardez try to fight anyone because he doesn't want to. This Jing Wei wants to farm up, wants to go a little bit later in the game. The Jade Dragons, I'm sure, are fine with saying, hey, you guys just want to sit back until 30 minutes into the game and then we'll try scrapping. It's not like it's easy to kill a build that Pegon will be going for late in the game, right? If Baba Yaga gets full slotted, she can be a menace. But still, it's not like they're afraid of getting Dardez and Vote to full 6 slot. Like, that is not something they're worried about.
Now, do you agree? Mifflin on the desk had said that he thought the Dragons had something that was more pick-oriented, really good at coming in, getting 1 or 2, versus the Warriors feeling better in the late-game team fight. Do you agree with that assessment of how this is rolling out?
It's difficult because I have a problem with how the Oni Warriors might want to initiate a fight. You see, it's very easy for Mike. He can just do that. Even if he gets plucked back, he just dashes out immediately, gets a heal, and he's all good. Jake has to be so careful about who he plucks because if he's not plucking consistently, no one's pulling beads for Panitom, and his life gets a little bit harder. But if he's not going for plucks, no one's pulling beads, and the Oni Warriors have no engage. And of course, even if he does land, you see what happens late game to a Sobek that plucks an ADC. Sometimes you just get stunned by Horus, sundered, knocked up, and you're dead on arrival. So the Oni Warriors are going to have a rough time trying to engage, but they can always just sit back, wait for the Jade Dragons to try and mess up, and it doesn't look like this is a mess up. Looks like this is a free opportunity to burn the Gold Fury.
Yeah, I mean, we saw one of the new additions that is charging up currently in the Stygian Beacon, and the Dragons use the opportunity while it's waiting to just go ahead and walk over, take a Gold Fury. And so, Trelly, we've been talking gold on gold on gold. It's been 1 kill, and they are pushing, what is that, like 3,000, 3,400? If they get the Beacon, with what we see pressure-wise afterward, Pyromancer may be on the table as well. Dragons could be knocking on a 5,000 gold lead pretty soon with very little contest.
Yeah, it's disgusting how much they're able to grab so far. And with the Beacon spawning in, I expect a rotation. I think that Nika has been able to pull ahead a pretty solid lead in solo lane once that Yorm shows up. Could be annoying to deal with. LASBRA has to try and body block the Fatal Strike here. Sot does have his way out, so he's not in any more danger. He will just be able to walk backwards. But again, puzzling. It does seem like the Oni Warriors are just not worried, like they're just kind of stalling. And because of that, the Jade Dragons walk up, they use that girdle to just burn the objective, and they're going to continue to try and do so.
They have definitely had, the Warriors that is, a few games, right, throughout this year that have not gone the way they would have wanted, some more so than others. They have yet to lose a set. Dragons winning game 1 could be a huge way to step forward. Still a lot of Smite to play before that can happen, though. Talking about a pretty big gold lead. We're still only talking about 1 kill, a late game team fight gone awry. Suddenly that lead feels like it doesn't mean anything. Being said, Charlie, we got to make it to late game. 12 minutes in, Beacon is up. Jake's going to stand on that one. You had mentioned maybe some rotations. Nobody so far from the Dragons even contesting it. 3/4 of the way full for Jake. Now 3 members of the Dragons there. And it's going to be contested right now. Warriors waiting for a rotation. Solo laners slowly making their way over here. Numbers advantage for the Dragons going to dwindle as the Warriors show up. Good pluck on the Mike. A lot of damage follow-up, but not enough to burn through him.
There's
Beacon's going to be flat, and there's going to be the execute. First blood there for the Warriors finally online. And now they're trying to chase down a little more. Dardez TKO'd, Vote knocked away as well. Beacon goes the way of the Warriors. And a successful fight to boot.
Yeah, I expected a quicker rotation, but slow but sure. Both soul laners did decide to walk over, and in this case, Sot makes a bigger impact. Mike steps forward, feels like he's safe, he can get out. He's like, I've still got plenty of HP here. Unfortunately, forgets about the Fatal Strike. No one was able to body block it. That's an easy execute and a return kill as well as a Beacon confirmation. That buff is going to come in handy here for the Oni Warriors. You were mentioning the Pyromancer that will be touching down here shortly. And the Jade Dragons, with the way they built, Mike already has the Shoguns. I already mentioned the Frenzy. It seems like they just want to walk up, double ADC objectives, and get out and not try and fight, right? They're just trying to push that gold lead already. Going for the pull. Dardez is here, and Mike's tanking it up.
Jake should be able to spot this, walking around the corner now. Panitom, Pegon, Sought in the neighborhood. They're going to go for Nika instead. The lockdown's good, but we had talked about this earlier. Turn into the World Serpent. You just jump away, and it's pretty easy for the Jormungandr to disengage there, but successful peel away from the Pyromancer, so the Warriors happy with their rotation. Maybe a little unhappy here. Netrioid standing in the 1v2, trying to save his purple. Not able to save it. Stays alive, which I would count as a huge win when LASBRA's over there. So the Warriors now, Trelly, not only the kill, not only the beacon, but doing a lot to pump the brakes of the Dragons, slow down that gold lead.
Yep. Blinking on a Nika there just shows how tanky he was. Again, Fatal Strike wasn't even available, so there was no way they were getting a kill. It was more so just a damage check. Like, okay, this guy's got Glad Shield, he's got Heart Ward Amulet. If we don't bring the Execute to the table, we are not going to be able to find a kill. But starting up the Pyromancer, Nika sniffs this one out and immediately puts a shutdown, but LASBRA's in the sky.
Yeah, what's he going to look for? Goes for the knock-up, not able to connect onto Pegon or Jake. Has to dash away immediately, so an ult down from the Dragons. And a big one at that, too. Although Nika's has recharged, that Chronos Pendant helping work pretty good numbers on the cooldowns here. And Shelly, I thought we were going to see another grouping for a Pyro, but instead, Dragons and Warriors both scatter, go back to their lanes, let us rest a little longer.
It was a bit of a grouping, right? They attempted.
Teensy bit.
Yeah, they said, hey, damage check, going for the stun on Devote, but can't find the relic. Oh my goodness, so much damage though.
Yeah, they chase him down, they get the beads sometimes, man. It's just that easy for a dodgy. Panitom up 1-0-1. Feels like a solid start, matching at least in terms of level right now. Jake, in no man's land, uses the ult for disengage, has the knock-up, dash is good. And I can't believe this. He's actually walking out of this one, so long as Mike doesn't have anything crazy to say about it. Doesn't look like he's going to. Almost punished for positioning. And that's the deadly side of Sobek we see, but survivability keeps him alive on this day.
Yeah, I mean, he plays it perfectly. He cancels the ult as quickly as he can, tail whip to disrupt, and plucks out. But before then, I mean, Vote wasn't even that far out of position, just gets aggressed on by Netrioid. So much die potential from Panitom. Was being greedy with the beads. It's like, I really don't want to use these if I don't have to. Finally goes for it, and then it didn't matter. You see the shell go down, the beads go down, and he still dies. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another gank attempt towards the left side of the map, but a pull towards the Pyromancer all the while. Remember, Oni Fury has spawned back in. The Jade Dragons are going to be able to go for that pull, and I don't even think they can get the consolation prize. The Oni Warriors don't get an attempt at anything on the left side of the map, and just Nika showing up, drop the Pyro. They get nothing.
Netrioid left on his own. Panitom was back at base. The other two hanging out in mid. So the Dragons, like you said, free objective, and you know what? They're going to take it every step of the way. 4,000 gold, 16.5 into the game, 3,700 experience, and that, at this point, is starting to feel maybe even more important than the gold, right? A couple of levels. You see one level in duo, you see one level in mid, but 2 levels over there in solo. A lot of that experience is just Nika, which is maybe why his presence commanding enough to force the Warriors away from the Pyromancer. But Shelly, eventually you got to make the stand. You had mentioned it earlier. They did the damage check. If Nika's ult is up, then you can't kill him, it feels like. And so they've got to figure out a way to deal with this Jormungandr if they want to do anything on the map.
Yep, and because of that, not doing anything on the map. They once again attempted a Pyromancer just now. Pegon and Jake went for it, and they dropped it. It's just been, hey, let's just see if they have vision. They do? Okay, let's back up. It's the benefit of having a Hunter in mid. Dardez at any moment could go over towards that Pyromancer with Mike. They could pull it. They could grab it for free. But you got to send Panitom or Netrioid over to try and guarantee that Pyromancer if you're the Oni Warriors, and they just do not have the ability to. Jake walks into a trap, but he's very tanky. And LASBRA is nearby. I was wondering if he'd try to go up to the sky for, once again, a shield buff, but does not think there's an opportunity to go in for the fight here. And it's actually SOT who was trying to get some good ward vision down, because the Jade Dragons, they want this Pyromancer, and they've got a rotation. But they're in no hurry. They're not going to go for it. They just wanted to see if they could get that extra ward vision down.
I think a lot of the conversation we had about the Dragons draft was like, is their early game going to fare against the Warriors? Like, okay, they look pick-oriented, but Dardez is going to get pushed in. And then Dardez gets the Tier 1 tower first, seemingly controlling pretty well Pegon as of right now. And to top it all off, Trelly, most of that didn't matter. There's 3 kills 20 minutes into the game. You're looking at this Jing Wei, you know, the first 6 levels don't care anymore. You're level 17, probably going to be 18 by the time we see something big finally break out. And so now we're having a late game conversation. Stygian Beacon on the board, capture point controlled right now. Jake and Sot standing around, but they're going to give that one up pretty quickly. Panitom looking for a kill, but might be getting killed. LASBRA gets up onto the branch, just like Panitom's on the powwow. Panitom needs to get out of here, but LASBRA's waiting for him, crashes down, and gets the kill, and now Netrioid is surrounded by 4. The damage is just there, and they turn a little bit around and are able to pick up Vote, but they've lost 3 in the process. They need this kill onto LASBRA. Pegon leading the way in damage. The Cauldron's going to try and disengage, but Nika once more. The Dragons are not settling for a 2 for 3. They are diving under the tower,
Sot,
and they're looking for a little more. Sot gets Dardez. Sot is looking for a little extra, gets Mike, and they go 4 for 4. Just the solo laners left.
Wow, I mean, all of that starts with Panitom getting aggressive. I heard the Trickster Spirit. I was like, where is Dardez trying to win a 1v1? I looked, and he was not winning. It was a terrible fight. He goes into LASBRA. He goes into Vote. Goes up to the Pala with 1 HP, maybe. Of course, LASBRA was also relatively weak, but you just sit there and wait. If you're going to be on the tree, you're like, okay, where are you going to land? I got all the time in the world. Eventually, Panitom drops down. LASBRA is able to get that return kill, but lands in the waking arms of Pegon, who just dishes out so much damage from the home sweet home. And then you just look at the Jade Dragons once again who are chasing through. Nika goes into the World Serpent and says, hey, I hit the first one, I get the Aegis for the second one. Eventually, Pegon, I'm going to have to find this kill. And he does. 4 for 4. But the Oni Warriors are able to grab the Stygian Beacon afterwards. So I guess you call that a small win in their favor. That extra buff does go a long way. So the Oni Warriors, despite being down in that farm, have been able to pull ahead kills finally in this game. But the Fury is available. The Pyromancer is available. There's still a lot to group up and fight over.
They've got 2 for 3 of those objectives, and remember, that gives you movement speed, permanent. It's going to give you structure damage that's permanent, and it feels good to pick up. 2 of them already make you feel really solid. The third one, Charlie, it's going to give us the Titans running down the lanes, and right now they're all looking pretty even, so it's going to be fun to see where those end up in the next few minutes. It is crazy to think about that fight, though. I didn't even realize, like, they started with the beacon, and then even after everyone had died, the beacon was still left standing. Yep. A little bit of a rotation. All it takes is Jake and Sot, the ones who started it all, to be able to pick that up. And we did just see a little bit of a slice in the gold lead from the Dragons. It's so far capped out. The max they've been able to pick up has been the 4,000. It's just about the Warriors trying to get some of these neutral objectives in their favor more than the beacon. Pyro, a Fury. We're almost 22 minutes in. Fire Giant should be on the board as well. So it's just the question mark where they go with that. Netrioid meets LASBRA in the jungle, while the Dragons pick up the Pyromancer themselves. They're going to start it. They have the damage, but do they have the confidence?
LASBRA's up?
Yeah, LASBRA's going to be in the air. What's he going to look for right now? This might just be the rotation for the Pyro. Full commit. And they're going to jump down on that. One ult already gone. Pyromancer burned by the Dragons. Mike picks up the bomb, dashes out. Jake gets a good pluck, blink, and it's on to Mike. The damage follow-up needs to be there. Sot's going for the execute, finds one, and that's going to start this fight one more time for the Warriors. Where they go with their sights, though. A little bit of damage towards Dardez, a little bit of damage towards Nika, but no kill pressure. The Warriors have to back away after losing Pyro, getting the kill.
That's a beautiful play by Jake. I mean, he knows exactly when Mike has used all of his movement. He knows that there's no sort of survivability because he's went in for the Frenzy and the Sunder. There's no Aegis. There's no pre-shell you can go for. SOT just gets a permanent execute onto Mike if he ever has that dash down. And in this case, easy pick to start off the fight, but they use so many ultimates to do so. There was no more chase down potential. And the Oni Warriors are going to start up his Fury. LASBRA's nearby, though. He's got a decent steal attempt and a blink, but that's pretty much it. There's no one else around. The Jade Dragons have left all their hopes on one Ratatoskr.
This has been something maybe necessary for the Warriors to try and pick up.
They're on fire.
They're going to drop it because, yeah, fire started up. We just saw how quickly the Dragons can burn down an objective. Double Hunter, although admittedly the Frenzy not back available just yet. Mike still poses a huge threat whenever he's nearby. So that's enough. Trelly, Gold Fury, not going to get picked up by the Warriors. They're still hovering at the same gold mark they've been at, but they stalled it, right? It plateaued at 4,000, and it has been hovering around that exact mark for over 10 minutes, which admittedly, the longer the game goes, the less the 4,000 really feels like it's making that huge of a difference. Still pretty big, but something that, with late-game damage, especially from a Baba Yaga, especially from a Marty, could be matched. Dragons rotate over towards left. Panitom goes up into the Pal to match him around the Fury. No chains just yet. I think looking for the disengage. LASBRA goes for the knock-up. Immuned out on the other side by Panitom. It's just a balancing point. Ult for ult from the junglers. Blink for blink from the junglers. Nothing more.
You got to be pretty annoyed if you're Panitom. Every time he goes up in the Valhalla, LASBRA goes up and says, all right, where we land? And like, I'm going to follow you wherever you decide to go. But this was a curious conversation brought up. When I saw the changes to Relic Dagger, I was wondering if these double Hunter comps would fall off, because the Bewitch Dagger that Awesome Jake picked up, he's also got Horrific Emblem. There's just so many ways, Guardian Mail from Sot, to try and deal with double ADC compositions. You know, the attack speed slows, those sort of things. We haven't seen it too much on objectives, because these objectives have been getting shredded, and that's what's happening here.
Fury, taken by the Dragons, no problem. Little presence from the Warriors, but nothing to be able to cause a considerable change in their aggression. Now it's just Fire Giant that's left up. Look, we're 25 minutes in, 5,000 gold separating them. And Trelly, I feel like we haven't even gotten to see the full 5-on-5. I guess whatever that 4-for-4 trade and left can count, but
one beacon fight pretty much, and because
nothing
of that,
else.
Yeah, we haven't seen too much scrapping.
Speaking of beacon,
yeah, I guess we got one more chance to try and see it once these Titans do start marching down. But it seems like if the Jade Dragons show up to Fire Giant first, you know, and then the Oni Warriors aren't nearby, we've seen the response time, right? It's been, hey, let's pull this for a second. And then immediately everyone from the side of the Warriors starts sprinting over. They use all their escapes. They just try to get there as quickly as possible, because look at the Jade Dragons builds. I mean, they've got the Xyz, they've got the Frenzies, they've got Shoguns. They are building to shred through not only tanky targets, but objectives, right? That has been the call so far. In team fights, does work relatively the same. Awesome Jake has been a lot of the forefront of this engagement, but honestly, Panitom has been sort of focused out as well. Maybe by his own aggression. He's usually at the forefront of the fight, trying to force out relics, trying to force beats, things like that. But one more beacon fight, SOT's already there.
Same can be said for Nika, though. Rotations in the mid. Everyone, actually, except for LASBRA, is over here. He can step up pretty easily. Sot standing in the perfect spot, but Jake, he's not. He gets melted easily by Voten now. It's a 5v4. Sot can't get out of this one. Body blocks are good, and 2 kills for the Dragons in the blink of an eye. Beacon gonna go their way. And now it's about Nika. A little bit of poke thrown towards him, tanky enough that he doesn't care, and a Horus ult from Mike gets the Dragons right onto the Fire Giant. Titans are gonna be running down mid. The Dragons won't care. They'll have 5 strong with the FG.
And this is what I was talking about. From the start, you can see Panitom is having very little success. 1, 1, and 2 at this point with actually finding pulls from the Palau. So he's like, Jake, you got to get in there, man. You got to give me some beats. Jake says, okay, I'll blink in and pull Vote. He got beats.
Yeah.
That was it. Jake died immediately, and that's exactly what's going to happen. There's no one else who's able to get in there and pull beats like that. Unfortunately, just does not happen. Because of that fact, it's going to be a full-on backup here. The Titans have been unleashed. Pyromancer is the call. And it does seem like the Runic Bomb is going to go to Mike. He's going to pick up a second one. So maybe a tier 2 tower, but at this point with the pressure that the Jade Dragons have for themselves, I wouldn't be surprised if we just save it for Phoenix, decide to go in, and see what you can do there. So much aggression, though. The Jade Dragons, with this double Hunter composition, have finally found, you know, that momentum. It was stuck, that gold lead, for quite some time, but it seems like no tanks on the side of the Oni Warriors can really stand up to what they've done so far.
I mean, even the Titan can't stand up to what the Dragons have to offer. Order Titan driven back in the blink of an eye. The Warriors unable to step forward. I mean, Trelly, this game, look, 7-7 for the kills. 10,000 gold, though, in favor of the Dragons. A lot of that early on started in solo, but since then it has just been oppressive from the Dragons. Neutral objective control. Every single one that's been taken has gone the way of the Dragons. Like you said, maybe trying to make a little bit more happen. Tier 2 is going to go down here to the Titan, but the Titan should fall shortly after. So now we're back to normal Fire Giant siege for the Dragons. 2 runic bombs from Mike. They're going to go ahead and fall back. Primal Fury spawning up in a second. A lot of gold still left on the map. And they're going to play towards left.
That seems to be the call. Usually the Oni Warriors would head over to right and try and get as much free farm as possible, but build-wise, not looking too far off. The Oni Warriors are stepping up to try and defend. Maybe they want to get a runic bomb or 2 down for Mike, if possible, but with double ADCs, this tower does not seem long for this world. So it will go down essentially for free. And the Jade Dragons get to back up here slowly but surely. I was wondering if Panitom was going to hide in the jungle and try and take a 1v1 with LASBRA, but a full Heartseeker down, essentially. It's not an easy 1v1 to try and pull off. This Ratatoskr can really just stun you out 1,000 cuts and should be getting the better end of that 1v1 unless Panitom just pulls off some crazy pre-beads with those Hydras and Bumba's hammer procs. Either way, the 1v1 doesn't happen. Panitom decides against it and does continue farming. The Jade Dragons go on back to base and prepare for their next siege. They've got time for one more attempt if they would like to, but it would be risky. I mean, they could go to the skies, drop a double runic bomb. There's still 3 birds that they have the opportunity to go for, but that timer, they're running low. 1 more minute.
Yeah, not a lot of wiggle room if you're trying to knock down a Phoenix. That being said, we've also seen objectives get shredded in the blink of an eye, so if you only have a minute left, Phoenix, in the right circumstances, get Dardez and Vode in there with 2 runic bombs. Suddenly,
there it is.
That Phoenix is gone. We'll see where they can get things going. Panitom back, stalled out. LASBRA was up in the air.
Double runic bomb.
And it's going to be double runic bomb. It just Vode this time.
They didn't get it, though.
But they haven't quite taken it. No, they're forced away. Now the Warriors with the rotation, they've got some good damage. It's not enough to save Jake's life, but he trades it out in order to keep the Phoenix alive. Barely, but alive. Strip some resources from the Dragons. Ults down on their side as well. LASBRA, Dardez, the only 2 maintaining theirs. Meanwhile, Paolau's up alongside everything but home sweet home for the Warriors. Trying to make a stand here. Mike walks forward. All they need is to get their carries in there. A couple shots from Dardez is good and gets the Phoenix and creates this successfully. LASBRA makes it up onto the tree, jumps away. Dragons manage to walk in, get a kill, get the Phoenix, and get out.
I mean, that would have been a decent call, too. The Jade Dragons ult in. They assume they have a little bit more damage than they do. They didn't bring minions, so Mike didn't really get the perfect of the skies up. But what it did do was bait in awesome Jake. This Sobek is not tanky. I mean, if you look at that build, that Prophetic Cloak is not stacked. You essentially have a sovereignty and some HP to your name. It is not enough to try and go in for a pluck aggressively, really, ever. It's just not enough. And because of that, Jake's been the forefront of the fight. He has been just, hey, I'll go in for an aggressive pluck, I'll pop Horrific Emblem, hopefully, and then you guys have to try and fend for yourself. Have not been loving the Sobek pick so far this game.
Yeah.
It brought some aggression in lane, but this is where it really falls off. Late game, 31 minutes, you have no way of pulling beads, and that pluck is best used as an escape. That's your only option.
Which is an unfortunate scenario, mainly for Panitom. Maybe more than Jake. The Warriors' presence still commanding enough respect from the Dragons that they drop the Pyromancer. Trying to figure out where their engage is going to be. It's not dropped for long. The burn still exists. Pyro goes down. Someone's got to scoop up the bomb. They got some wards in inventory. Fire Giant on the horizon. And that's what the Dragons are focusing on. Trelly, 12,000 gold. I mean, 12,000. Feels oppressive. And then when you start to factor in the fact that you've got fire minions on left that are not being stopped right now, a lot is riding on this enhanced Fire Giant.
Certainly is. The Jade Dragons are already set up for it. They're around. Nika keeps going invisible, stepping forward, seeing who he can find. And all the while, Netrioid is clearing up those fire minions. Finally, EFG has started up, and it's going down fast. Sot, the only one in the pit. Is he in the pit?
Well, for a little bit longer, but not much longer. Killed off. Same thing for Panitom. LASBRA gets onto the tree as well and should have the disengage. Pegon looking for a little bit of a chase, but there's only so much you can do. 2 members of the Warriors gone in an instant, and an enhanced Fire Giant for the Dragons. They've got fire minions on left, and Trelly, they're going to start pushing down right.
LASBRA's going to go for this.
He's going to stop Pegon. Has the stun, has some CC. Dangerous damage. But sometimes all you have to do is stall out the back. He did it once, You'll never guess what's about to happen. He's going to do it twice. Blinks forward.
No
Has the damage
shot.
this time. Kills off Pegon. And now that's 3 gone. The Dragons get to walk it right into the Titan room, all thanks to the jungler. And they're looking to end this game. Vote goes down, and so does Dardez. Jake stepping up big with the damage here. They're doing enough. LASBRA rotates in. Netrioid's going to go down. Oh, and it looked like maybe the miracle defense existed, but the Dragons say no. Stomp it down and win game 1.
I mean, listen, the early pressure from Nika was insane. Of course, the Yorm was going to rotate and do big things. The Sobek was a question mark for me from the start. All of that made sense. But watching Pegon just lazy back twice right next to LASBRA with both relics up, lose that 1v1, and it just seemed like that was a play that didn't need to occur. But props to the Jade Dragons. Number one, they started out of the gates with lots of pressure, right? They were looking for that farm throughout the entirety of the map. LASBRA was getting aggressive on this rat, which we knew he was able to do, but didn't know if he was going to be able to find that same level of success. And they translated it to this objective burn, which was insane. They showed up to a Gold Fury, pop frenzy, get it, get out, and they did rinse and repeat. How many times?
At least 9, I think. I have to go back and look at the numbers. Every single neutral objective, though, is the answer to that. I mean, they did not drop a single one. The Warriors, it felt like from the get-go, we're grasping at straws despite maybe some people leaning. In fact, chat even leaning in their favor for how that draft went. So they're going to need to do something to bounce back here. It's 1-0 up for the Dragons, but we've got a best of 5 to play out. We'll see how it continues right after this.
not scared to take a chance. Yeah, I'm so happy that I found you. And you know that I'm yours, alright. You can tell by the look in my eyes. Don't wanna play it cool, I gave it straight from the heart. Oh, how I love to be around you. We got something better than the others. We can fly higher than an eagle. Take me somewhere we can be together. Oh, how I love to be around you. Oh, how I love to be around you. You can show me how to move, 'cause I don't wanna be sitting alone. I don't care what road you choose. Don't wanna go back to who I was before. And I know that you might know right. I can tell by the look in your eyes. Don't wanna play it cool, I give it straight from the heart. Oh, how I love to be around you. We got something better than the others. We can fly higher than an eagle.
Well, game one of our first semifinal goes over to the Jade Dragons here in the SMITE Summer Masters. And speaking of Summer Masters, you can pick up a Masters t-shirt by going over to shop.highrisestudios.com/SPL and pick up one of your SMITE Summer Masters t-shirts brought to us by our good friends over at Skulls. It's not just t-shirts. You can also make sure pick up jerseys, hoodies, all that kind of good stuff, and more. Some of those comfortable, at least, wear that I've seen and that I've gotten the pleasure to wear from our good friends over at Skills. So make sure that you pick up yours now. Again, shop.highrisestudios.com/SPL. Thanks so much for Skulls for the new t-shirts over here for the SMITE Summer Masters. Game number one, though, Mifflin, this was a commanding game here by the Dragons. Starts off over into the solo lane to kind of kick things off as far as the lead goes. Nika getting a real strong lead on the Yorm, the Achilles falling a bit behind. Gets some of the team fight stage. We see a little bit of light out of the Oni Warriors, but just felt like every time that the Sobek would go into this double hunter style of composition, Jake goes in, Jake's gone, and then there's not really feeling like there's much team fight after that.
Yeah, I agree. The Oni Warriors, for the most part, not really on the same page in the engagement. So often it was a few members disengaging, Jake trying to work his way through that back line, jump in, buy some time for his team. His team's already out, and he just goes down for free. That's essentially how First Blood happens, with Panitom forced to retreat back towards that Tier 2 tower, and that tends to repeat itself through a few of these engagements. The Oni Warriors keep it close and kills alone, I believe keeping it even at 7-7, but down 12,000 gold at that exact same time. Every single neutral objective, Fury and Pyromancer, goes to the Jade Dragons. By the time that first Fire Giant was in their control as well, they were very easily able to knock down their first Phoenix, and from there, the Oni Warriors never quite able to find their footing. And it starts early. The Jade Dragons find their kills. They find their action very early in this game, even in trades coming out ahead because they were able to accomplish something afterward. Almost an inverse as well as what we had seen from the Oni Warriors throughout the regular phase. So often the conversation was, yeah, their fights aren't clean, but they always do something after. You know, they might go 2 for 1 or 1 for 1, but the Oni Warriors are the ones generally grabbing the Gold Fury or the Pyromancer in a situation like that. This time around, script flipped entirely, and it's the Jade Dragons dominating.
With that, the Jade Dragons start out on the right foot here in this best of 5. Game number 1 to them. Now still need 2 more games if they want to find themselves in the grand finals of the SMITE Summer Masters. But double hunter composition, give us at least a little bit of a flip there. Normally we do see the Jing way over into the dual lane. Vote, typically one to kind of pilot that pick, but Dardez showing what he's able to do on this pick. 23,000 damage out of the Jing way mid. Nika putting up about 24k on the Jormungandr solo. Even kind of starting out with a little bit of a different build, getting a little bit of damage to start things out, and then going a little bit of tankiness thereafter.
Yeah, just a little bit of utility, a little bit of safety, never hurt anybody. I wonder, J-Mac, where do the adaptations begin, though?
Right.
When you look at the slash lines, yeah, I mean, it's like 7-1 for LASBRA, so maybe you want to put some eyes on Ratatoskr, but was it entirely Ratatoskr making everything happen? He was securing a lot of the kills, but only put up about 17,000 damage. I wonder what the Oni Warriors elect to change here. The only thing I could say solidly, and even then I'm not holistically confident in it, is that we probably won't be seeing another Sobek.
Yeah, maybe a bit of a rough one there for Jing. I mean, it's a great god to go in and get initiations, but unfortunately he ran into the late game Sobek problem. You go and you pluck, they have beads. Well, I guess I die here, especially with all the CC that the Dragons had lined out alongside of it. So far, no changes in the bans just yet. Still sticking with the Circuit and the Hell are the Oni Warriors. Jade Dragons take away Thor and Aphrodite. Still waiting for one more ban between those two teams, and then the Oni Warriors again on that first pick selection. So maybe then kind of, where do you change your first pick? Because last time around it was Marty. Netrioid not really having a poor performance by any stretch, but didn't really feel like we got the value of the Marty first pick from the Warriors.
Yeah, I wonder, when you grab Marty in first slot, it's almost a threat. Hey, now we can double hunter composition. Maybe you have to adjust your bans on the other side, or maybe you adjust your picks and try and address it. And it felt like that was maybe the idea for the Oni Warriors until they see a little bit more of the Jade Dragons draft and they decide to shift away from it in that last moment. If Marty's going to be your only hunter, I just feel like there are better options, right? Marty, of course, incredibly safe, great ability hunter, really good at putting out damage in the PvP. He's essentially another mage on base defense and on base siege, with the added benefit of having physical auto attack, so a little bit better at actually dealing with those structures. But he's not the best auto attacker in the game, not by a long shot. Doesn't have a standard stim. The build that he generally tends to go for, not great at long battles, not the best at boxing either, which is why when you put a double hunter composition, it's like, oh, it's just a physical mage who also happens to have immense defense shred to facilitate that other hunter. On his own, I don't think he stands nearly as well. So it is an adaptation from the Oni Warriors. Jormungandr in the first slot.
What a meta we're in, huh?
I can't believe how highly valued this god was. I mean, Jorm does great in game one, but I don't think it was a swing pick by any stretch of the imagination. And on the other side, the Jade Dragons will be taking the Marty for themselves, again, creating an opportunity to look towards a double hunter draft, and it's something they had done even without him, so you got to imagine it's only better now if the Jade Dragons go towards it once more. And a Yemoja as well. Just sustain, team fight presence. It's everything you could want from a support.
Yemoja Marty for the Dragons. Immediate response back with the Warriors. They picked that Yorm in the first slot and then rounded out with an Izanami and a Horus dual lane. Taking the Horus away from Mike after he went ahead and picked the Yemoja there. So it looked strong in game number one for the Dragons. Now afforded over to Jake in the support role. And then Izanami, something that Netrioid, one of the few players in the league, has been consistently going back to. We've seen some of the other, maybe older heads of the league. We've seen Zapman, Barracuda kind of stray over towards this pick a couple of times, but the only one really consistently going back to this Izanami pick has been Netrioid on the Oni Warriors.
Just potentially the highest pressure hunter in Smite. Having those piercing auto attacks on every single auto attack, you jam waves incredibly easily. Nobody deals with Bastions as quickly as Izanami either. The ability to hit both at the same time, just incredibly valuable. You've got decent boxing potential in lane so long as that first ability is available. And it's not as if you scale poorly into the late game. So certainly a strong pick as of now, and one that should alleviate some of the issues that the Oni Warriors had run into in game one, which is the early game. The Jade Dragons won out handily at that portion of the match. Having a little bit more pressure on your side could help out.
Nemesis now for the Jade Dragons to round out their top three before we jump into the second wave of bans. And this is what we're going to see now after the bans are done. We start getting into these last couple of picks. Is this a lone Marty comp for the Jade Dragons? Is this a dual hunter comp from the Dragons? I think that's maybe the question that I'm looking to see answered for the Dragons with that fourth, maybe with that fifth pick, to see if we're seeing a lone hunter or if we see the two hunters from this team. The Oni Warriors then, question is, where do we see Pegon go over towards? Where do we see Panitom maybe stray in his draft? The Dragons trying to put a little bit of pressure on Panitom and Pegon both by banning away Hebo and Dardez. Meanwhile, Oni Warriors don't want to see a potential double hunter and are banning some of the ones away. We saw in the previous game, both Cernunnos and Jing taken away.
Yeah, so now what mages are still available? If Pegon so chooses, could still grab that Baba Yaga for himself. Would be decent into the Yemoja, just being able to get over that wall consistently without having to rely on a Phantom Shell. A good deal of value there. I wonder. The Dardez ban is interesting. I really would have just expected it to be Baba Yaga in that slot. especially considering Panitom struggles to get involved in that Daji in Game 1. So I think the Oni Warriors now have a few options available for mid lane at least. Baba Yaga comes to mind immediately, Merlin as well. I'm just thinking of anything that can, for the most part, deal with that Yemoja and the ability to dive on the side of the Jade Dragons. Defensive mages, very valuable. And a little bit more dive in the 4th slot for the Jade Dragons. Sun Wukong locked in. Have we gone back in time? A Jormungandr Sun Wukong meta. Very safe soul laners. Both have decent scaling to the late game. Decent dive potential as well. Maybe some of the itemization changes really have started to favor these two picks. It's good pressure on mages. And in a meta, at least based off of last week, where we had seen a few more immobile mages see priority, Ra comes to mind immediately. Both Jormungandr and Sun Wukong decent against picks like that. Interesting to see. It's such a large departure from how the first week of this event had started. I mean, so much has changed in such a little time.
And that's always the beauty of events like this, especially when you throw them onto a brand new patch same week. You don't really have a whole lot of time to test things out, to see how it works in more of a competitive setting. You have your scrims, you have your casuals, your ranked teams that you can jump into, but you don't truly know how good something is till you get an opportunity to experience it competitively, see what some of the other teams have developed and cooked up over the time. And now we start to see it here unfold in the semifinals. Set banned in game number 1, now picked up in game 2 for the Oni Warriors. To be determined if this one goes over to Pegon or Panitom. It seems that will be set mid over for Pegon. And Susano going back to Panitom in the jungle.
A very fast composition from the Oni Warriors. Set and Susano put pressure on just about anybody. With Eset to round out the draft. This is more interesting a selection than I think immediately hits the eye. Interesting in that we just don't see a whole lot of Eset in general. And when we had seen it in the past, it was a bit of jungle from Sino and some support. But as far as mid is concerned, up against Susano, that Wing Gust, a great answer to the pull. For the most part, you are very good as a full-on counter-engage style pick. If Set wants to get active, wants to get aggressive, he's going to have to deal with the instant stun, circle protection on your feet, plus silence and HP shield. Makes it really difficult for these all-in style picks to actually find the all-in until about 3rd, 4th item. Then things start to shift a little bit more so in favor of that set. It looks to me like the Jade Dragons have really got a composition that is going to scale well into the late and then deal with the problem picks of the Oni Warriors there. And if they are able to establish an early lead, the Jade Dragons that is, they've also got the best objective secure in Smite. Circle protection, unbeatable on Gold Fury, unbeatable on Pyromancer, and I won't hear otherwise. The Oni Warriors, on the other hand, very strong pick-based composition, has pressure in the duo lane, has a soul laner that can be left alone on an island. You trust Jormungandr to hold his own, so ignore that side of the map. All in on mid and left. And if things start to get rolling, I mean, it's a double assassin composition. They tend to keep the ball rolling as well. So if I'm on the side of the Jade Dragons right now, my entire concern is, how do we deal with this early pressure? How do we make sure we're making it to that mid to late game team fight? And if you are able to get there, things will start to line up. The Oni Warriors, complete inverse. How do we make sure we just stomp the Jade Dragons into the dirt before they're allowed to group up as 5? I think it revolves almost entirely around this mid lane, how well this set performs. If you're getting a quiet set game, this composition tends to fall apart, I think.
And we've seen some quieter set games in the past where early game you don't really hear a whole lot, and then maybe late game the gas kind of gets turned up a little bit. But I think you're right to say against a composition like this, it's probably not one that you want to fight into late game, especially if you're having to fight against Yemoja. Not a whole lot of great answers to getting away from her in general, especially her ultimate. We've seen some of those Rivers Rebukes really be game-changing team fights out here. So for the Oni Warriors, you're definitely slanting this to definitely need to be more of a necessity to get through this early game, get that it's kind of lead established to be able to end the fight up against the Jade Dragons in the late game. The Jade Dragons have started off this set with a Game 1 win for themselves. Finding a win in Game number 2 would put them on match point. Can they do it? Are the Oni Warriors going to tie this one up? Let's jump into Game number 2.
Well, the Warriors pushed back by 1, Trelly, at this point. It's still an impressive feat for the Dragons. J-Mac even floating the idea of the Dragons going up 2-0. We'll find out throughout this one. As mentioned, Trelly, Gore, and of course Doug, who is going to be making sure we catch all of the action here in Game 2. And look, you know, the Yorm looked really good. Last time around, though, the Warriors, they had a lot of community favor. Right now, Twitch Not favoring them as much. Still favoring them, though, 55% to 45% here in favor of the Dragons. Very, very different teams. Dragons now load in with a Wukong. They got a Nemesis. They got an Eset. Very different from what we saw last time around. Versus the Warriors, which is aggression, 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 and then a little bit more aggression sprinkled on top.
Yeah, this is a night and day difference for me, for the Oni Warriors composition. Of course, different for the Jade Dragons as well, but I had question marks about the Oni Warriors comp in game number 1. I don't have too much question marks about this one. Putting Pegon on set mid, a pick that he has played just how many times now, is a pick that he loves, and of course has a tremendous dive. Panitom on the Susano, which I don't think we have to talk about how scary that can be, and of course we saw how good Nika was able to be on this Jormungandr last time, and now it's in SOT hands. So those kind of questions for me are already done. I like a lot better what the Oni Warriors have done with their draft this time around. But if we are looking at the Jade Dragons, LASBRA is going to lose a little bit of that aggression. He doesn't have the Ratatoskr anymore. This Nem is going to have to sit just a little bit differently than a Ratatoskr would. You don't really have that same level of that early stun, things like that. But Nem still does have the ability to go for some early ganks. He's able to find someone stepping too far up in lane, the slow, the double dash, that sort of thing. Can net a kill if you're in the right position. And with that, Dardez on the Eset. A lot of CC here. I'm curious how LASBRA and Dardez decide to play the 2v2. One good stun onto someone with blink and not beads like Panitom could be a first blood if they play it correctly.
Man, Spirit Ball. In the right hands, the right build, late game does so much damage. Early game, it's just a nasty stun. Plus the silence you had mentioned. Engage, though, has been a little bit of poke here, a little bit of poke there for both Panitom and Pegon onto either LASBRA or Dardez. They're still looking for that control. Just now hitting level 3. Maybe the advantage they wanted. But this is what the desk was expecting. I think what you were expecting as well when you see the double assassin. Yeah, first blood definitely should be in the conversation, but also control over mid camps, control over anything in this vicinity of mid should be on their side. And they're going to go for a little bit there, not able to get the pull onto Dardez. Needing a lot of damage back. But the essence of what they want to do is there, Trelly. The Warriors are showing it.
Yep, they go in for the blink play. Doesn't quite work out. Dardez doesn't even have to use the beads there because of a well-timed wing gust. And LASBRA also blinks in, putting some good return damage there onto Pegon. But you're right, they showed their hand pretty early. They got double speed buff. They want to try and run down this Eset if possible. There's only one mage in this lane, and that is going to be the target, unfortunately, for Pegon. Taking a lot of damage, and again, Panitom does not have the beat. So that silence is going to last such a long time into the Spirit Ball. Just kind of difficult to fight in. If you're not catching Dardez by surprise with a nice blink play, you're likely not finding that early first blood, at least not in the mid lane. So going back to farming is the call. Pegon's going to be looking to stack up that Transcendence, so similar to the Baba and not looking for early fights, right? You're kind of trying to stack up that item, get some power online, and then look for that play. But I got to be honest, we talked about it in game number 1 about how the solo lane may be not a graveyard. What's the opposite of a graveyard where there's no killing? Just anywhere else that's not a graveyard, essentially.
What is the opposite of a graveyard? It's, I guess, a hospital birthing ward?
Yeah, a parking lot, just anything.
Well,
really.
I was thinking, because, like, graveyard, that's where, like, that's full of dead people. So you need some, well, I guess full of alive people is a lot of places.
Well, that's what I was saying. You don't go to the graveyard to die. You have already died.
Oh, yeah, you've already died.
So just anywhere where people are being alive. In this case, there's a Wukong, there's a Yorm.
Yeah.
They're going to be alive over in the right lane, so I don't think there's too much time Panitom and LASBRA want to spend near these guys.
I'm going to be stuck on that, man. It feels like a philosophical question.
I know
just don't have
Twitch
the
chat
answer
has
to.
like 12 answers, and they're just spamming them, and I'm going to feel dumb, but
It does feel like something like you go back to a certain age, like Greek philosophy, and it's just, what is the opposite of a graveyard? And then someone has a really good theory on it, and like everyone holds that as true, like how the Earth is the center of the universe, until somebody says something otherwise. Back on track in game, though, almost 4 minutes in. And like you said, last time, relatively slow pace, right? Not a lot of kills. I think we had 3 going into 20 minutes. It took a little while. I think 7 minutes for first blood. Expecting something kind of similar. You had mentioned survivability, the opposite of a graveyard over here. And right, maybe mid will turn into a graveyard. But that is TBD. You had already said with the Transcendence, not as likely. The other one I want to mention here And it's unfortunate that he's backing right as I decide to talk about him. It's the duo lane, right? Netrioid switching over. The Izanami has actually been very kind to Netrioid. I mean, just historically, not just this year, but I feel like even back when he was on the Kings was something that they would go to often and would look good. But I also think we have to talk about the Horus for Jake, and very specifically the change-up that it has from something like a Sobek. Sobek, you dash in, and then good luck. Horus, you dash in, you still have something at least that can get you out.
And that's what I'm talking about, the night and day difference, right? You have ease of engage here. We saw what Mike was able to do on the Horus in game number 1. Now Jake gets to have that same sort of effect. Not to say that Mike doesn't have a great form of engage with River's Rebuke. I mean, this Yemoja has been top of the tier list for, essentially since she came out. And because of that engage, because of the way that Mike will try and pilot her, there could be some phantom shells coming through for the Oni Warriors as the game continues, but as of now, have no way to try and deal with that wall if they do get trapped. And Mike is one of the premier Yemoja players. He knows how to set up for his team. He knows how to find that engage, which means you got to think twice about, hey, maybe we dash in, maybe we drop this Kingslayer ultimate. Pegon's going to go in, try and find a kill. You could easily be not only cut off with the River's Rebuke, but you could be stuck in and have to deal with the return damage that could come out as well. Because Eset has not been that prominent in the mid lane, we forget how good of self-peel she really can have for a double assassin dive. You drop circle protection, say, come on. Go in, try and get in melee range, try and fight me.
She gets the Odin taunt. Come, fight me!
And you don't want to, honestly. It's a lot of damage and a lot of CC. Of course, late game set may be a bit different, but for now, Pegon's right to respect who's standing in front of him, the opposition, Dardez on the Eset. But we'll have to see exactly how safe he can be positioned as this game continues, because Panitom, I would argue, has become a master of getting to the backline, especially on a pick like Susano. He knows how to do it. Game number 1 was not very successful, but I think that had a lot to do with Jake's selection.
And now we have Jake. Different selection. Missing all the abilities, though. Not going to help out too much in this instance. Actually, might end up hurting him a little bit. Dash didn't connect. Knock-up wasn't good.
I was just hyping up how he's got ease of engage, and then he just
well, the ease was there. Yeah, it's just hitting it, right? That's always going to be a little more complicated. Connects it this time. Blood is not yet to be spilled. It's all over mid-camps. Panitom's still hanging around. With Pegon here, he would be a little more concerned for the Dragons, or at least I was a little concerned for the Dragons. It doesn't seem like that concern was well placed. Mid-camps just get split, and then the teams split. They don't want to fight. Not looking for anything like that just yet.
No, they are not.
It's all that transcendence, man. It's slowing things down.
Yep. How many? This isn't even that bad considering we've seen like 4 stacking metas back in the day. This is only 2 on the side of the Oni Warriors, and only 1 stacking it on the side of the Jade Dragons. I think it's more so just how much damage is coming from the double assassin of the Oni Warriors. Like, they have the ability to just get an easy 1v1 in the jungle. Not to say that LASBRA doesn't bring some damage as well, but he's 2 levels behind. Panitom has been finding so much farm as of recent. So the Jade Dragons this game have been on the back foot more often than not. You were talking about Netrioid on the Iza, and he's been right here at tower line, just making sure that Vote can't step out. Just how well these boomerang auto attacks are able to clear the wave. You're usually going to get the better end of the 1v1 until Marty gets some items online. Looking for an attempt to kill Mike here, but I don't think they've got the damage. Like, I'm going to just poke him out and try and look at a purple buff invade that's not even spawning yet.
Do you have the Dark Portal?
Oh,
and their
beautiful
jungler
pull.
pull back in. There's going to be the River's Rebuke, but the knockup is good. The auto is strong. And first blood for the Warriors, all on that aggression on duo. Now, Jelly, it perfectly respawns in. They'll get the purple buff. Maybe a little extra pressure. Vote's hanging around. Netrioid didn't have to use ult. Doesn't seem like too much should happen over here. But you got to be careful if you're a Marty. You just saw what happened to Mike. Dangerous things, giving first blood over to the Warriors, and they're going to push that advantage.
Yep, Panitom was able to capitalize on the Riptide, get an easy pull, and LASBRA says, hey, there's a lot of pressure over on the left side of the map. I'll steal away a red buff. That's really the best he can do. Try and catch up farm-wise because of how much time he actually spent over on the left. But, you know, there wasn't enough damage. It really was. Panitom had to make that rotation in, but it was all a bait, right? Hey, let's set up for something before the purple buff spawns in, see if anyone steps forward. And in this case, unfortunately, Mike was the target. He gets pulled back in, drops the rivers, and was not able to peel for himself. So first blood goes the way of Netrioid. And in a lane that was already pretty Izanami favored, probably even more so now, Vote's going to be spending a good portion of his time just setting up I guess little grass traps maybe to hide in the bushes. He's not able to step anywhere out of his tower at this point, just saving death from above. More often than not, just for survivability for Marty here. So Vote's probably going to be spending a good portion of his time just underneath that tower.
Mid camps cleared out by the dragons on either side. And Trelly, we're starting to get into Pyro / Beacon / Fury conversation territory. And so for the Warriors, only one kill, but we've seen that potential. And very specifically, we are going to be seeing these transcendences, or this transcendence for Pegon on the side of the Warriors finished by the time one of those big fights kicks off.
No baby.
And I guess the question, I was actually just now seeing a little teleport there from Panitom, thinking maybe he's going to go in. The real question is with that finished, do we suddenly see the Warriors just start looking for fights? I guess the answer immediately is yes. They're starting to pull around on the Gold Fury. They want to engage on the Dragons. And with Sot rotating in, this should be a pretty simple objective. Started up. Zoned out for Mike and Vote. And the rest of the Warriors get the Fury before they have to back off. Not too worried about anything else going on.
This is looking pretty similar to game number 1, right? But the Jade Dragons were the ones who were pulling these objectives, getting them uncontested, and continuing that sort of streak. So, as you said, the rotation comes through. Easy pull. Nika decides not to make the rotation out. Like, hey, if you're going to go all the way over there, Sot, I'm going to clear some waves, attempt to steal a blue buff. See who's got the better burst damage here. Sot with the Bellow should have a decent chance. It just does so much damage, even with a build like this. The Crow's Pendant and the Breastplate. But with that being said, the Oni Warriors are in the driver's seat, right? They want to set up for that beacon. And actually, Panitom might want to try and go for a gank here. Doesn't seem easy. The Somersault Cloud goes up, and Nika doesn't have too much mana. They're not going to try and chase down a Wukong here, I imagine.
Well, only so much you can do when bird form exists, or in this case, I guess the Ox. You're not looking for distance, you're just looking for disengage. That's going to be pretty simple. Beacon's going to be up in 30 seconds. And now I'm starting to wonder, Trelly. We're seeing the... Also, Wonder Trelly would be a really good superhero.
Wonder Trelly... What does he do? Who knows?
What does he do? Well, hopefully he analyzes the Yorm that I'm about to ask, which is very specifically just... It feels like he has been, even though down a level here, more dominant in Game 1.
Yep.
Maybe not quite as dominating from Sot's perspective in lane, but has had better rotations already. And it almost feels as if you get him, and it's just... I'm struggling to see anybody right now stand up to him. And I'm starting to understand those bans last week a little bit more.
Yep. It just seems like a pick that you don't want to try and fight up against in lane, but maybe towards the beacon is the call. Nika does make the rotation over, and Sot comes in forward looking for a knock-up. The beacon fight has begun.
It's already about a third of the way there. Damage onto Jake is massive, but it's not as massive. It's Panitom picking up Vote in the jungle. That's not around the beacon, but now the Susano able to rotate in, gave him the double assassin that the Warriors need. Looking to get some damage onto Nika. Dragons picked up quite a bit of the capture point, but quite a bit isn't enough. Warriors stand with 4 on the objective. Should be able to capture this one no problem. Get a tier 1 plus the kill onto Vote to boot. Jake's got to stay in there to capture it. There we go. The Warriors picking up their objectives. And Charlie, I mean, you had called it. It's just last game.
Oh, no.
Maybe even exacerbated. I'm looking at almost 5,000 gold here for the Warriors 13 minutes in.
Vote's dead, I think. He shouldn't be winning this 1v1.
Yeah, he can't walk up too far. Oh, no.
Vote, no! He has no idea. He has beads. That's it. He's got no death from above.
Tries to run from Netrioid into the waiting arms of Panitom. Oh, and that one's cyberbullying. The kill goes to the carry for the Warriors. And Trelly, welcome back to lane for Vote.
Yeah, unfortunate. We've seen that play from Panitom a few times. He usually sits by the door, says, hey, you coming this way? Oh, you're not? Okay, I'll meet you at the tower. All right, now we sit by. And he's going to be able to turtle away the purple buff as well. That's a level 15. Izanami, Netrioid pushes down the tower. He gets so much free farm, 2-0 already. And this is what we've been talking about. I mean, that pressure just starts to build up. You can tell. Vote goes double stacking. He wants Transcendence. He wants Soul Eater. He doesn't want these fights, but he's forced into taking them because the Oni Warriors know he's just going to clear the way faster, going to be able to step forward and just find so much aggression. Because of that, tower goes down. Vote loses his life twice, and the capture point still goes the way of the Oni Warriors. Pyromancer I assume, is next on the chopping block. They've got time before Primal Fury's here, and SOT already starting it up.
There's no need to worry. You've got Netrioid, right? I mean, you've got everything that you might need for the objective. Attempted steal over the wall from Mike. Admirable, but not successful. Warriors flipping the script on the Dragons here in Game 2. Controlling all of the neutral objectives. Hell, at this point, all of the gold. 5,000 and counting. 3 kills to their names, 15 minutes in. Spread across the board, but leaning heavily into, as you had mentioned it, the level 15 Izanami. Charlie, where do the Dragons make their stand? I mean, how do you start fighting into this?
I mean, it's difficult because I did want to focus on what Dardez was building, right? You look at this Eset, maybe he's going to get online a little bit later, but did end up going into the Stone of Binding. It just doesn't do too much damage right now. He does have lots of pen, and that is the idea. You get a little bit of survivability, you get that pen, but it doesn't seem like Circle Protection is going to be just that one-shot capability. Can certainly outconfirm for some objectives if that's the play, but Dardez hasn't been stepping up. He's been just trying to match farm with Pegon because this set can get across the map so quickly. And because of that, the Jade Dragons haven't really been stepping up for too many objectives if they can choose so. I mean, look where Vote has to stand just to get farm. He has to be so far back. That's pretty far away from the Primal Fury. And if you remember how the last fight even started, hey, let's go for the beacon, and then once Vote tries to rotate, we gank him. He's probably thinking that same thing's going to happen, so he doesn't want to step forward.
Honestly, he might even be able to make it to the fight safely and still end up dying with the dive that the Warriors have. Primal Fury held onto by Jake. Everybody else is a little zoning duty. Nika, Dardez, Mike in the neighborhood. They're not eating good this time around. They're going to get sent back. The Primal Fury picked up for the Warriors, and Charlie, it's still hovering, plateauing around that 5,000 mark. But man, 5,000 gold 16 minutes in is noticeable. I mean, you're seeing tier 3s when there's tier 1s on the other side. It is a solid lead right now for the Warriors.
Yep, but unfortunately all the neutral objectives are gone, which means for now a retreat call. I was looking at Netrioid's build because when you're this far ahead and there's nothing else to go for, most teams sit around and do nothing. But the Oni Warriors in particular, we've seen 14-minute Fire Giants out of them with this Horus pick if they're able to ult over. And do you see where Netrioid is? At the moment, it seems like he might be going for a lane swap. I don't imagine this is a Fire Giant pull. With the build that he's got currently, Executioner helps, and they have the DPS if left uncontested. But you'd think that they're just trying to get some towers, group up with their Izanami, and see how much pressure they can get. And tier 1, maybe the call. Netrioid is the one with the Runic Bomb, so that's the play. 3v3 here, but the Jade Dragons are stepping up to defend. This is not going to be a free tower by any means.
The damage, it's just there. LASBRA has to dash away. Play things safe. Shield is gone. Beads are gone. So is his tower as the Warriors stay aggressive. Sots rotated in. Not too much you can do left in mid. Unless you're trying to get hyper-aggressive against a tier 2 beacon. A little over a minute from spawning in. But Charlie, you had called it. They're over here. What can they do with this aggression? Well, the answer is potentially a Fire Giant pull or a kill onto Nika. They're looking for one or the other.
One more tier 1, why not? I mean, you just rotate over, and whatever, it seems like wherever the Warriors go, the Jade Dragons disperse. You can see LASBRA is not on the right side of the map. He's over with Vote. It's only Panitom on the left that is trying to just try and match farm and make sure that tier 1 tower doesn't go down. The Oni Warriors are making up their own objectives. They say, hey, let's group up and push for tower 1, tower 2, tower 3, and see what we can find. Maybe an ambush on a Panitom is what they're looking for.
It could be massive here. Dash, mobility, good from Panitom. Uses the ult for the disengage. And that's going to be enough to stall them out. Jake brings the crew to help. Pyromancer's going to be spawning in relatively soon. Beacon's going to be up just a few seconds as well. Tier 1 on left, push down. Someone's going to have to defend that. The Warriors, Charlie, I'd say spread thin if it weren't for the fact that every single one of them has been a powerhouse in and of themselves. 2, make it 3 now on the Pyromancer. 1 hanging around the Beacon. 1 sent back to defend against Vote. Still, nothing but neutral dominance for the Warriors. We're looking at 19 minutes where they've controlled pretty much everything.
Yep, Beacon spawns in, they're already here. Stott, Jake should be able to pull it pretty easily. And again, it's been Vote stepping up as far as he can, clearing the wave, and then running. At the very least, he's been able to match XP now because Netrioid has left for such a long time. He hasn't been over in left lane. He grouped up in mid, pushed a tower. He grouped up on the right side of the map, pushed a tower. And then was able to get a little bit more farm here. But again, the Oni Warriors are being clinical. They're trying to grab everything they can slowly but surely, not overstep, right? This is not the, we're going to dive you under tier 2, we're going to force engagements, Oni Warriors. This is, let's try to get to level 20. Let's get maybe one more item online, upgrade starter item, something like that. Then we'll start baiting in these Fire Giant plays. And this was the lane swap I expected, just because SOTS teleport, right? So he can clear out vote, he can make sure that this Marty isn't just getting free farm over on left lane, and then teleport into FG whenever need, or even use the World Serpent for the halfway rotation if he really needs to, just to try and keep that teleport off cooldown. But I'm thinking we are within 2 minutes of a Fire Giant pull, maybe even closer than that, just because the Oni Warriors are getting antsy. They've got a lead, they win every fight they've been going for. It's about time you try and look towards those Phoenixes.
Yeah, you need to knock something down. You need to do it quickly. Nika might just be the something right now, has to play carefully. All the tier 1s are gone. Yorm is over in left right now, so if they're going to be making any plays, it's going to be on the back of a teleport. So Trelly, maybe it's not a Fire Giant, maybe it's just look for picks. Jake, unfortunately, off the mark there from finding a stun. Just like last game, we passed the 20-minute mark with 3 kills on the board. Difference is Warriors have all 3, and they're starting to push 6,000 gold. They can continue this rate. 5,700, 5,000 experience. Level 20 already there for Panitom. 19 for Netrioid. Charlie, they're giving us some breathing room though, right? Fury's up. Should be a pretty easy pickup for the Warriors. No contest from the Dragons. And then we'll be talking about the Fire again in a few minutes.
Seems to be the call. Gold Fury goes up. Gold Fury goes down. The Oni Warriors grab another objective in their favor. But the level 20, that's what I'm looking for. That's when these star items start to get upgraded. That's when the Warriors might feel a little bit more confident going in for an FG. But even if they do, they got to keep their eyes on Dardez, right? That's the greatest steal potential they've been looking for. I mean, Mike, at times, has stepped up to these objectives and thrown some bubbles over the wall.
Yeah.
But if you want an actual Fire Giant attempted confirmation here, you got to get Dardez into the pit. And so far, I mean, I would assume his damage numbers are towards the lower side, right? I mean, this Eset has not been part of too much. I guess no one's been a part of too much fighting, but we haven't really seen what this Eset build can do. A lot of pen, so the tanks are not going to love it. But the question is, are you going to be able to be that lone confirmation when Panitom's nearby? It can be sketchy. Those knockups, I mean, it's not going to affect Dardez too much, but the rest of the Jade Dragons might not want to step forward just because of the fear of how much damage this level 20 Susano can do. And he did just go back and upgrade that Bumba's Hammer. Might be the go button, but it seems like Pegon is also heading back to base, possibly trying to upgrade that Sigil. And that's exactly what he's going to do. These starter options. That's what I've been talking about. Sigil of the Old Guard and Bumba's Hammer online. Maybe that's the call. Just trying to pull this Fire Giant. But considering they've been setting up these ambushes, they've been sitting around corners, it may just be that the Oni Warriors don't want to just go in for an objective. They want to fight. If they can force anyone up, that might be the start of their engagement.
Well, right now, start of the engagement's pretty simple. Pyromancer, hey, it spawned. Netrioid in the neighborhood. They're going to go ahead and take that one down, no problem. Good zone from Sot. Well, Trelly, in the past, we've seen the Warriors start up the Fire Giant for the simple notion of it starts a fight. Right now, though, they might just get the objective. You had mentioned it. Somebody from the Dragons has to step up, and if you want your best bet, keep your eyes on Dardez. Pegon fishing for the mid laner. Doesn't even have to worry too much about it. Warriors, Fire Giant on 5. Nika, Somersault Cloud trying to disengage. With enough mana, should be able to get away, but gets caught almost. Caught enough. Yes, there's the dash. There's the knock-up. Panitom puts a 4th on the board for the Warriors. The rest group up on right, looking for the tier 2. As Panitom leaves his friends to go try and solo out LASBRA if need be. The rest of the Warriors get to flex the strength, flex this gold lead they've amassed, start knocking on the base of the Dragons.
I'm not going to lie, I might have gotten baited by that Horus ultimate. When I saw Jake go up, I thought the whole team was leaving. They were just going to let Nika go, but Panitom and Netrioid stayed back. They said absolutely not. We're able to counter out that Somersault Cloud, push down the tier 2 over on right, and now the Oni Warriors get to group up 5v4 and try and go for a tier 2 tower. They did use both Runic Bombs for Fire Giant confirmation, though, so Netroid's going to have his work cut out for him. Doesn't seem like too much of a defense here from the Jade Dragons, though. They're sort of just throwing out some poke and not really trying to confirm.
LASBRA bullied Panitom in the jungle there. Despite being 2-0 and 2 for the Susano, builds are pretty much equal. I mean, you know, we talk about the gold lead. You got to spend it if you're going to have that advantage. And right now, that's where the Warriors are maybe waiting on. A lot of gold in their pocket. Been a while since we've seen some of their backs. And, you're starting to approach 2,000 for a majority of the players. They're going to back, buy. Primal's up, Tier 2's gone, Phoenix is exposed. The world is their oyster right now, Trelly. They can do with it what they please.
And they certainly can. Grouping up for the beacon might be exactly what they want, though, because the Warriors, as you said, are pulling objectives because it's the smart thing to do, because it further pushes on their lead, of course. But because they want to scrap, right? They want the Jade Dragons to try and step forward. The Jade Dragons are playing it smart. They recognize, hey, we don't have the itemization. We don't have those upgraded starter items just yet. There's no real reason for us to try and fight because it's not going to go well. So because of that, they've just been keeping themselves alive, stalling out, able to grab some good farm. But lucky for the Oni Warriors, Titans are pushing down left lane, and that's exactly where they wanted to try and siege next. Another minute and 40 seconds or so before they're able to go in for that Fire Giant to bounce off. And that should be enough time to try and run it down left, kill the enemy Titan, and go for an attempt at the very least to grab that Tier 2 tower. But Phoenix could be on the cards. Remember, with that Horus ultimate, with Awesome Jake able to just pull a whole wave of minions into left, right, middle, wherever they really choose, the Jade Dragons are going to have to be on point, trying to predict exactly where that to the skies is going to land.
So both with and without their own Titan, how do you like the defense, I think, from the Dragons? Or I guess with the Titan of the Warriors, more than likely, with the amount that they're shredding. How do you like their defense right here? I mean, at the Phoenix line, do they have enough to stop the Warriors?
From going in for a Phoenix, likely yes, but an actual fight, not the best option, depending on who from the Oni Warriors oversteps. Because it seems like, shredding through tanks was very easy for the Jade Dragons in game number 1. Game number 2 has not been very easy. They have shred through just about no one here. I mean, they have 0 kills, so that should just go to show you how much they've been able to accomplish. It's off of LASBRA, though. Trying to find a keen ultimate onto someone who's overstepped and then blowing them up before they can escape. Usually, I mean, SOT or Jake. Those are your best options. So far, has not been the call. I mean, stepping forward slowly but surely. But that Fire Giant buff runs off in 20 seconds. The Oni Warriors need to go now or back up.
Well, they're stepping in. Good damage onto Mike immediately from Sot. Their Titan's just so slow, man. It's their only problem. 10 seconds left on the FG. And their Titan is just now cresting the Tier 2 tower of the Dragons in duo lane. Maybe only downside of it spawning in the long lane is that it's the long lane. Taking a little while to get there. Instead, the Warriors going to go right. They have the damage, a lot of burst at the up front. Just a little more to get the Phoenix. They have it. They kill it. And now maybe they can go assist their Titan over and left. They're going to join Pegon in mid. Start knocking on this Phoenix and Trelly. This is after the Fire Giant's gone. They're just walking up to the base of the Dragons, taking the birds left and right. I guess I should say mid and right. Left stays standing. Warriors back up. Just a few seconds left before the FG spawns, and they've got a massive advantage.
And it wasn't like that was too difficult of a play to read. Again, we all knew the Horus ult was going to be the call. Where do they end up flying? The Jade Dragons. It wasn't like they didn't predict it either. They sent one over. They said, hey, vote. Deal with the Titan. We're going to predict right lane. They did. They stepped up, but the beautiful thing is, number 1, Panitom's got the Hydras and Bumus Hammer procs on the Phoenix. And number 2, Netrioid, you can't body block those autos. The Boomerang just makes sure to confirm as much damage as possible. So right bird and mid go down. All the while, the Titan essentially 1v1s left Phoenix and gets it down to very low HP. So next siege, assuming the Oni Warriors grab Fire Giant uncontested and step forward, will be relatively easy just to kill all of the structures on the side of the Jade Dragons. I would say Nika's the only one who can step forward, but last time he stepped up, the Somersault Cloud was not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It was a, I have delayed my death a bit until Panitom finally is able to find that kill. So the Jade Dragons, once again, just have to set up farm and base and say, hey, we'll turtle. At the very least, the fire waves are going to push up, meaning we get free farm. We don't have to go out to the halfway point to get where those minions meet. The fire waves will eventually just spoon feed us some extra gold. But stepping in for an FG isn't the call. And actually, I love this play from the Warriors. They said, hey, why not wait for enhanced? Well, the Jade Dragons aren't going to step up. They're not going to fight us. So let's just see if we can find a pick, sit around some corners at 30 minutes, then we'll go in for the objective.
To further your point, maybe further the Warriors' dominance. 10 minutes since it was mentioned, 1 kill picked up in that 10 minutes. But for the Warriors, that was all they needed for the Fire Giant, for all of those tier 2s, for another Fury, for a Pyromancer, and 3 towers plus 2 Phoenixes. I mean, it has been maybe some of the most fruitful 10 minutes that the Warriors were able to do, and a very eventful Fire Giant power play, setting up for another one. 20 seconds until it is enhanced. They might not even need to wait that long. Knockups available, but not locking down Mike enough. Like you said, they're just playing the game. Are you going to step up? If the answer to that is yes, you got to be careful. But Fire Giant DPS is going to start here for the Warriors. The Dragons got to figure out what they're going to do.
It's only Nika up so far. He's got decent steal attempt, but can he go for it? It's just the cudgel. That's his 50-50.
Sot is the one that has the Runic Bomb. That's not there right now. Warriors get the Fire Giant, get it enhanced, and now they're looking for the chase down. Nika's on the Somersault Cloud. Should have the disengage, lands right on Netrioid, and burn is there. The River's Rebuke does enough to peel them away. Here comes the Horus ult, though, helping Pegon out. The stun is there on the LASBRA. Netrioid comes in to save the day. 2 in the blink of an eye. Call it 3 as Netrioid picks up a double, burning through the Dragons, and dominating this game are the Warriors with the EFG. 2 Phoenixes still down. All 5 are going to march down mid, and Trelly, they're going to tie this set up.
They're going to tie it up. Not only that, in a full-out shutout, Gord. 0 kills for the Jade Dragons. I would argue there was no fight. It was all a lot of let's just sit back, and I think the Jade Dragons had 2 options there. 1, let's just sit in our Titan room and see if we can hold out and keep the Titan alive. Or 2, let's fight. Let's go in for the EFG, go in for a possible steal, and just put all of our cards down. Doesn't work out. They were just too far behind, but I like the call, right? Let's just go for the possible 50-50. Nika does his best. He goes in for the knockup, can't find it. So much damage, though. And Sot was zoning, I want to say 3 members of the Dragons by himself. And it was just like full HP on the Yorm. And no one could get past him.
I was a little worried there because he had the Runic Bomb. He was way, way off in the other direction. Felt like maybe something could go wrong. And that maybe that's the fall of the Warriors in that game. But not only does nothing go wrong, they get the kills afterward, and they continue to dominate in their performance. Absolutely insane. I mean, in Game 1, the Dragons had a commanding lead.
Oh, yeah.
And they had it for a majority of the game. But the Warriors were at least able to clap back and kill count. This time around, what was that, 8-0 by the very end, 4 kills in the blink of an eye. And sometimes that's what you need to tie things up. Again, we've got 5 whole potential games to go through. 2 of them down, 3 more maybe. We'll see who can take the lead right after this.
I've been giving you the worst of me. Now you wanna stay the night. Pretty how you work hard for me. We're forgetting how to talk. Nah, I don't like no humble beats. Just go and suss it up. Now it's time to marinate. And right after we're done, I like it when you're looking like that. Don't like it when you check. I like it when you're looking like that. Or shy to find, don't mind my reaction. I like it when you look like that. Don't wanna watch a bugger with a white mouth down. Just like it when you're looking like it. No sweets, no rush, can't my attraction. Don't think twice, I'm here for a moment. No, I like him better. I got a church, please help me end up, make it last forever. I've been giving you the worst of me. Now you wanna stay the night. Pretty how you work hard for me. Why forgetting how to talk? Now I don't like no humble beats. Just go and suss it been giving you the worst of me. Now you wanna stay the night. Pity how you work hard for me, but forgetting how to talk. No, I don't like no humble bitch. Just go and spice it up. Now it's time to marinate. Right after we're done.
The Oni Warriors are not going to go down without a fight here in game number 2, or maybe on the opposite side, the Dragons are going down without any kind of fight for themselves, because Mifflin, this was a game for the Oni Warriors that was very odd pace compared to what we're usually accustomed to seeing out of not only them, but teams that play against the Oni Warriors. This was very cautious play, a low kill count game until the very end. I mean, going into the final Fire Giant push, it was only 4-0 up for the Oni Warriors, but it was all the objectives, everything on the map belongs to the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, it's essentially just the other side of Game 1, right? Whereas the Jade Dragons, in attempting to push their lead in Game 1, had some fight back in the team fights. The Oni Warriors did not find themselves in that same situation. No fight back in the team fight from the Jade Dragons, who seemed more than willing to allow the majority of those neutral objectives to go down with very little presence. And when the Oni Warriors are allowed to have a, I believe, 6, maybe 7,000 gold lead by the time the first team fight had rolled around, I'm thinking the Oni Warriors are going to feel pretty confident in their ability to take that team fight. And that was true of everything. Every neutral objective, every structure, and every semi-permanent structure. Phoenixes went down with a little fanfare as well. The Jade Dragons composition was not projected to do well if it were to fall behind early, and the Oni Warriors found their lead very early on. A lot of that pressure coming out of the duo lane in particular. Thought Jake and Netrioid had a very good performance. Rotations from Pegon and Panitom impactful as well. And perhaps the strongest portion of the draft from the Jade Dragons, the ability to jump on those neutral objectives, completely mitigated by the Oni Warriors simply being there first and taking them first. Can't really drop a Circle Protection on a Gold Fury if it isn't there. And the Jade Dragons ran headfirst into that wall a few times. Hard to break down a game like that. It's one-sided. Jade Dragons got blanked.
And that's the tea on this Jormungandr. I think just the Jormungandr in general might be next, as far as the topic of conversation to go through. Last week we saw it played, I believe, one time, and then we saw it banned a few times against the Eldritch Hounds, and that was about it. That was about all that we saw out of any kind of Yorm last week. This week now, we're 2 games into our best-of-5 set, and both games we have seen a Jormungandr selected in that top 2, which maybe then opens the discussion as just to how potent this Jormungandr is for compositions. Is this a god that you can just pick and then build any kind of composition around, or do you feel that there's something you need to have alongside this Jormungandr to really make him succeed?
I think so long as you have CC coming from someone else on your team, you're probably all right having a Jormungandr, right? Jormungandr being a little bit on the CC light side, it's just that knock-up and that third ability that's going to be consistent for you. Means that you want someone that can start your fight consistently. Susano can do it. The majority of supports can do it as well. What they can't do is match damage output with Jormungandr. I don't know if you saw that 22,000 from SOT, just about doubling the next highest.
So now we'll see where that Jormungandr falls in priority for both of these two teams here in game number 3 as the picks and bans start to roll through. Same bans that we've been seeing, at least over the course of this early day. Set will now join the rankings maybe a little bit earlier in the ban column for the Jade Dragons. So it's kind of an odd one, because you look at least during that game, Pegon behind Dardez for at least the majority of the early to mid game. It really wasn't until about that level 15 mark that we saw Pegon finally get a lead over his opposition there, and most of that warranted just by all the neutral that was being done by the remainder of his team. It really wasn't until about that 4th or so item that this set really came online, but Jade Dragons will ban along with it the Aphrodite to at least round out their top 3 bans, and the Oni Warriors not willing to give up the Jormungandr. After one game played on each side, Oni Warriors are going to decide to stop that one here in game 3.
Yeah, no cheat codes for this one. Say the Oni Warriors, Jormungandr 100% win rate on the day. We'll have to take a back seat. With that said, the Jade Dragons do have pick a field of any remaining solo laners. Sun Wukong saw some priority in game 2. Could be that the Jade Dragons go back towards it here. Could just say, well, you know, Sun Wukong just outclassed by Jormungandr. Don't have to be too concerned about it. Instead, an ADC lock-in, and one that was at the top of the priority list, has since fallen off. Hachiman replaces him. Ishtar replaces him. Now back. All of a sudden, the Cern, not much has changed with Cern since he was at the top of the priority either. Still has really good poke in lane. Still has a phenomenal team fight ultimate. Good CC output. Generally safe. Good scaling to the late game thanks to that first ability, the changing the seasons. So I'm not going to complain about it too much. But it is wildly different to what we've become accustomed to.
Like, did I miss some shadow nerfs that came to Hachiman and Ram or something? Like, those were the top 2 hunters all last week. Cernunnos was
and it wasn't close.
Sitting in 3rd place. You know, okay, one of those 2 got banned away. I guess I'll play Cern or maybe like Ishtar or something, but nowhere to be seen for the other 2. It's another game of Izanami for the Oni Warriors and the Cernunnos Atlas locked in for the Jade Dragons. And if this Ravana gets highlighted and likely locked in, solo lane Ravana has made its comeback. We saw last week what Ducky was able to do on that kind of pick, what a few other teams were experimenting with. Feels like we might be getting the solo assassin back once more.
Yeah, the mitigation that Ravana's afforded is just so difficult to deal with. I'd saw multiple team fights, I'm glad you bring up Ducky, where he just goes in at 40% HP, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, you must have ulted the wrong way, right? You didn't mean to jump into the back line sub 50%. He did. All that damage mitigation in the ultimate, the build, how it starts to line out, Ravana. Very threatening in the current meta. Also does have some flexibility. We've seen from the SEC guys that Ravana could very well make his home in the jungle as well. And so the Jade Dragons get to keep the Oni Warriors guessing at least a little bit going into this next phase of bans. I wonder, do the Oni Warriors decide to take some shots towards the jungle? I might still keep my eyes on something like a Daji ban. Or are they going to say, well, no, that Ravana is slated for the jungle? Do you start looking towards the solo lane? Otherwise, hard to say. I mean, Ravana, just pretty good anywhere you could put him, I'd argue.
So Merlin to round out the Oni Warriors composition. So we jump into the second wave of bans, a Ratatoskr ban over towards LASBRA. Maybe either trying to force this Ravana into the jungle or just saying that maybe unwilling to think that this Ravana would be going over in the jungle, and so just taking some extra picks away from LASBRA at that point. Jade Dragons, though, will ban away Tier, which I'm a little surprised that he's gone 2 games without being checked at all. Though maybe that's a product of the Jormungandr in the solo lane. Not really a fun
Where's
matchup
Guan
for Tier.
been?
Also, yeah, what happened? Did we just get like a random bonus patch that nobody knows about where all these random nerfs just kind of stopped him?
I don't think so.
Not that I know of.
Someone surely would have told me, a high-res employee, if Guan Yu got nerfed, right? Look, the meta changed. The ebbs and flow of the meta always ever-changing, and the developing meta at the Summer Masters event seems to be straying away from some of those picks that were incredibly prioritized a bit earlier on. I gotta imagine Guan Yu is still incredibly strong, though. I mean, defense, shred, initiation, CDR for your allies, healing. He's got it all. He just hasn't got the picks. He hasn't got the favor behind him. As of now, Fenrir to roll out the last of the bans for the Jade Dragons. A shot towards the Oni Warriors and Panitom. But Panitom still has a few of his own favorite selections still available. I'm looking at the draft as it stands. I know Panitom is perhaps the most proficient Susano player in the league right now, but looking at this composition from the Jade Dragons, doesn't feel like one that you really want to go towards Susano. We'll get a better idea of it with the last 2 selected from the Dragons themselves. The Oni Warriors will hold off a bit on their jungler selection and instead field a Sun Wukong for the solo lane. Decent pressure. Didn't get a good look at it last game, but it does have decent pressure. Very good ability to push in those minion waves. Phenomenal rotations. That 72 transformation, just really good at maneuvering the jungle. And also, bar one, the safest solo laner in the game. The one being Jormungandr.
So where will the Jade Dragons go with their final 2 selections? We'll see if this Ravana is going to LASBRA or Nika, likely with these last 2 picks. Still also seeing if the Cernunnos is going to be going over to the dual lane for vote like we saw in game 1. See if this maybe goes over to Dardez in mid this time through. Jingwei still up if they want to run the double hunter composition for the Jade Dragons again, though again Jingwei not the only hunter that you would need, but it's the one that they ran at least in game 1 of this best of 5. A lot of options still available to the Jade Dragons, a lot of things they can do to try to flex this composition around. Seeing Mike back on the Atlas, and that he brought out up against the Camelot King, saw a lot of success on this pick. We're seeing kind of middling success, at least as far as the early portions of the phase were going, but has been on a general upswing, at least as of recent. Pele locked in, and then Jingwei immediately after, so we will see the double hunters from the Dragons, and this Ravana going over to Nika and solo.
So another 4 physical composition as well. This time, sole source of magic damage is that Atlas. But Atlas having some defense shred, and he does have pretty decent damage as well. I think that you can probably get away with it here on the Jade Dragons. I don't love where the CC comes from on the Jade Dragons, though. You've got the root and the slow from Ravana. You've got the polymorph from Cern, but that's not always the easiest to land, and for the most part, Wild Hunt uses a self-peel tool. Pele's got a knock up, Jingwei's got a knock up, neither one of them exactly the easiest to connect either, so it's really, for the most part, going to come down to this Atlas and whether or not he's finding astrolabe pools. Getting into the face of this Oni Warriors composition, not going to be easy, and so actually just channeling that second ability, I think, very difficult for PBM and the rest of the Dragons, and so initiation starts to become a concern in the 5-on-5 engagement, whereas the Oni Warriors, I would have said, had a slight concern in initiation. Sun Wukong and Horus together, both single target, have a little bit of an easier time than what the Jade Dragons have just slotted for themselves, but now rounding out that draft with Erlang Shen. 9 turns Blessing plus Blink is start a team fight every single time. I mean, it's a simple equation. I like how this one starts to look now for the Oni Warriors. You've got AoE damage, persistent damage on field from this Merlin as follow-up. Izanami, pretty proficient at just holding her own in that back line. It'll be difficult for the Jade Dragons to chase her down. I like this draft from the Warriors. I wonder what portion of the game the Jade Dragons really put a lot of emphasis on, because it is solo Ravana. You tend to think that that's a little bit more late game slanted, whereas traditionally when I think of Ravana, especially out of the jungle, it's, wow, it's a great early game pick, tends to fall off a little bit. Not exactly the case on the solo lane. You need to stack up that defense before you're finding its full value. But Pele is a god that can certainly get things started very early. You haven't got the easiest targets. I think Merlin, for the most part, going to be the recipient of a lot of that aggression. Izanami as well. Post-leap, Volcanic Lightning. Just see if you have enough damage to win that DPS race. And if you do, great. Maybe the rest of your team can get something done. If you don't, 1-for-0 trade, and all of a sudden you're fizzled because your frontline dive has just died. So this is a very, very high execution composition from the Jade Dragons. I think a lot of it resides on this Atlas, and a lot of it resides on the Pele. If Cern, Jingwei, and Ravana are just role-playing well and doing what is expected of them in role, I think just fine. You're not really expecting them to have breakout performances on those 3 picks. In the team fight, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on just those 2. LASBRA and PBM, a lot of weight to carry here for the Dragons.
I think on the flip end here for the Oni Warriors, I'm really looking at this Erlang Shen because we've seen it 3 times so far. Hasn't gotten a single win just yet. We've also seen 3 different styles of builds picked up for this Erlang Shen, so I'm kind of curious as to maybe where the pathing goes on the Shen. Do we see the full glass cannon style of build that we saw from players like Captain Twig? Do we see maybe a little bit more defense coming out of here like Sam and Kirmi were building? Or do we see maybe a full defense style build, get 1 damage item and jump through there? So I think, at least for this comp of the Oni Warriors, maybe that's where a lot of my attention goes to, what Panitom does with a selection like this. They tied up set in this best of 5. Remember, winner moves on to the finals. The loser still has a 3rd, 4th place to match up to play for the next one down there. But you want to be the one moving forward. The Warriors going to try and keep their upward trend going back here. But can the Dragons slow them down? Let's jump right into game number 3.
That's right. It's been an undefeated year so far for the Warriors. Trelly, to try and keep that on the rails, they're going to try and win this game and at least one more after it. The Dragons still trying to cause a little bit of an upset. Chat's still leaning towards the Warriors. This one a lot heavier than last game. It was 55-45 in game 2, 61-39 from the Twitch poll here in favor of the Warriors. And Trelly, I'm going to ask you the question that I was asking people last week, and I feel like still is relevant. And it is just Erlang Shen, especially last week, highly valued. But as we saw, 3 games played, 0 wins. How do you feel about the God right now?
I really hope that we get to see something from him because so far, I mean, it's been a lot of CC, some setup, but not that same level of shred that Erlang used to have so many moons ago. So I always feel, I mean, at the moment, not good, if I'm honest. I would love to see Panitom just absolutely pop off and show me exactly why so many people are still going towards this pick. I understand some changes occurred, which apparently, allegedly made him much better. But I have not seen the proof so far. So, you know, it's going to be a lot of engage, a lot of lockdown. He still has incredible CC. That's not been the issue. It's just been, are you able to hard carry games away like Erlang used to? And for the past year or so, the answer has been no. But I know a lot of junglers still love this pick because they put so many hours into him back in the day when he had Mannequin Scepter and things like that. So I do think that ease of engage still is something that Panitom is going to lean towards, and of course that early pressure. Erlang is still going to be able to provide at the pin, just so good CC, being able to pull down the rune, and then the Mink form or the Turtle form, both provide you with some excellent boxing tools up against someone like Dardez or LASBRA. So, you know, not my favorite, but I hope that Panitom proves me wrong.
Yeah, it's something that has room to grow, just based on what we've seen. And it's just whether we get to see why he has been so highly prioritized. Although I say that, and he was, what, 10th pick this time around,
yeah.
So not so highly anymore. Also interesting to see the Wukong. You know, we had talked about the Jormungandr, I think, being the overarching pick. But Wukong getting highly prioritized by the Warriors this time around with the Jorm ban. Is that just the way things have kind of shaken out over the last couple of weeks, that Wukong's finally good again?
Seems like it. Seems like these proc items have been very strong, and if you're picking a warrior like Sun Wukong that has a bunch of abilities to proc, then you're going to have a decent time.
Does have a lot.
He's been getting some good pressure in lane, and of course, you're up against Ravens. You don't need too much lane clear. Ravens never been one to bully out in lane in particular. It's usually once he rotates towards these mages or these hunters that don't quite have some itemization. That's when Raven bullies. That's when he is an absolute menace. But as you can see, his wave clear, not the best. Nika is going to be just clearing essentially the melees because he can't even get over towards the archers for now. But, you know, the proc items, the safety, does seem to be the call here. And because of that Jorm, which has been dominating the set, was taken away, Sought wanted the next step, which was going to be that Wukong. Excited to see how it plays out because, you know, we haven't seen too much of the actual dive of the Wukong. Like, oh, I blink in, get some good damage off, Somersault Cloud, I land on a carry, they're dead. that used to be the call.
Yeah.
But the build we've been seeing recently is a lot of Manticore spikes, Glad Shield, Bluestone. Just let's get yellow numbers. Let's just be annoying and survivable.
Crazy to think. They've got 144 different transformations available to them. Just on 2 gods.
There is a lot of transformations.
I'm assuming that the 3 Wukong get and the 3, or not even 3, 2 that Erlang get are from the same set of 72. It's not like 2 completely different sets of 72. I don't know my lore. That's, I think, really what I'm admitting to right here.
Yeah, I also have no idea how many transformations they actually have access to.
Sounds like me and you've got some raiding to do at some point. Right now, though, the Warriors just playing smidge aggressive. Jake pushing up against the purple buff over on left, making sure that they get the shield buff. Pressure right now has been what has dominated this entire game. It's just, hey, can you out-clear the other dudes? You don't even have to get the kill for the first 10 minutes if you don't want to. It is all these neutral objectives, and right now, that's shaken out a little in favor of the Warriors.
Can you imagine as like an April Fool's joke, you actually got access to all 72 transformations?
It looks like a Morgan wheel.
Just based on how, like, because it's all about your target or how far you extend it if you want to go from Tiger to Bird or whatever, and then Erlang the same way. And they just say, you know, every like little inch you move your mouse changes to
because your auto attack goes for 55 units. We might have to hold that thought. LASBRA trying to get some work done on the Pegon. Body blocks good from Panitom. Return damage has been there. They need a little more though if they want to try and turn it around. The good news for them, Pegon, they eat the ult. They get to live to tell the tail Warriors walking away alive.
Yeah, Pegon didn't even have to beats there. A lot of damage came through. Panitom and LASBRA were getting low, but neither was able to go back and actually finish up their first item. Because of that, no blood was spilled. No kin size from Panitom, and of course LASBRA just finished up that Soul Eater there. If they were able to go back to base before that scrap, maybe things go differently, and it's actually going to be Executioner there for Panitom. So objective burn, as well as just trying to shred some of these tankier targets, still on his mind. But we see exactly how much damage this Pele can do to a squishy target. Just a lot of CC and a lot of chase down potential. No ultimate available, but Zot gonna take a little bit of damage here.
Yeah, a little bit of poke thrown his way. There goes to show what a Pele would have loved to have her ult for. Or for Zot, I mean, with ult available, maybe try to force some safety out of him. He just gets to walk away. Which right now, for the Dragons, it isn't like a hard loss, but it is definitely a commitment that does not go the way they want to. Pegon might be in a little bit of trouble. There's a lot of people around. Flicker's going to get him away from some damage. And it should be enough to stop things. Jake comes in. I don't think they've got much turnaround potential. In fact, LASBRA is going to be coming back into the lane. Engage from Dardez is there. LASBRA dives under the tower.
Wow.
Autos are good, but the damage from the tower, Pegon's going to turn it around for first blood. Teaches you what a mid-lane gank looks like. And now he's even walking forward. They've got Panitom in the jungle. They might go for a little more. Jake's playing aggressive with Panitom here. Oh, that tier 1 tower is just enough to thwart him. But Trelly, it does not matter. You're riding a high. You got first blood. You're going for the invade. You're feeling great if you're the Warriors.
Yeah, and I said wow, not because there was a lot of damage. It was quite the opposite. It was the fact that LASBRA thought a kill was coming. I mean, look at his build. He went Soul Eater. I'm amazed. We talk about this so much, and it usually never comes up, because when you go a stacking item, you don't go in for those dives, right? You are stacking that item to get the benefit of evolving it. LASBRA has so little damage built with this Soul Eater. If he goes Jotuns or Crusher, yeah, you're getting a kill every day of the week, but with a build like that, I'm amazed that he went for that play. Just did not have the DPS, and Pegon lives to see.
Well, we have a replay of it, and personally, I want to watch that one just to see, specifically because Pegon so cool under pressure in this instance. We see LASBRA on his way. Pegon just deals with it. I mean, that is Trelly.
He hit everything.
He hit everything.
That's my point. LASBRA hit every single ability. He just did not have the damage. That's why I was saying wow, not because there was so much damage coming out. Quite the opposite. A Merlin should die if you hit every single Pele ability on him, but not when you have 20 stacks on a Soul Eater. It just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Now a little bit of a chase down here, Netrioid, but Jake's got the ult. Can he land in time? I don't think so.
Now LASBRA does exactly what he needs this time around. Couple more stacks on that Soul Eater. Suddenly what you can do, shut down an Izanami that just found a great amount of success and help balance things out. Netrioid's level 9 to Votes 7.
Yep.
And there's not been any action other than a death onto Netrioid over there. It has been impressive from the Warriors carry. Just to say, man, sometimes you can cut that sentence off. It's just been impressive from the Warriors. Last game into this game, the Dragons, for the first time in what feels like, 40 minutes, maybe longer, do get a kill, turn things over, at least slightly. Gold still in favor of the Warriors. Experience still in favor of the Warriors. Or sub 10 minutes, Trelly, plenty of room for things to change.
Certainly is. Panitom went in for the attempted gank there onto Mike, but did not hit the open. Now another gank. The Tiger, it's not fast enough. He's Wukong finally gets it, but I don't think Pegon has the damage to try and confirm that kill. Eset just runs over and looks for Mike. This is what I was talking about, though. The blink in from Panitom. He tried to go for the 9 turns blessing, and Mike just dashed away, didn't care. And I guess the Oni Warriors were not able to let that one go, so they go in for the return gank. All the while, Nika steals away blue buff, but Jake tries to go over to purple and take it away from Vote, doesn't get it, so a lot of wins here for the Jade Dragons. Of course, you already highlighted. They are behind gold-wise, XP-wise, that sort of thing. But able to take some buffs away and confirm some of their own. Definitely going to be a good look. And it looks like, once again, as you highlighted, Vote has been spending a lot of time here because of this lead that Netrioid's been building up for himself.
And I'm going to be honest, there's been some purple buff invades. It's insane, honestly, to me, how well Netrioid has controlled this. Shield buff is going to be a pretty heavy point of contention here. Started up by the Warriors, controlled by the Warriors, and I believe confirmed by the Warriors. But not without a little bit of scrapping over around the Fury Pit. A little bit of poke, Panitom, everybody showing face. And Charlie, it feels like that's one of those moments where there's we like to talk potential energy, kinetic energy every now and then. That one had very massive potential energy. And then once the buff was gone, fizzled out like it was nothing.
Yep, and because of that, on retreat here. Remember, objectives were such a keen part of game number 1, game number 2, same sort of way. But here in game 3, no team's been looking to try and burn a Gold Fury. No team's been trying to burn through a Pyromancer. They're diving. Vote is the call. And the CC chain is good, but not enough damage. Just gets the beads. And Netrioid should at the very least get a tier 1 tower. Mike thought about rotating over, but decides against it. Beautiful play there by the Dragons, or by the Warriors, unfortunately for them. Vote gets to get out and only loses his beats in the process. And his tier 1 tower.
Yeah, tier 1 tower, maybe a big deal. Mike's going to show up. He's going to bully the minions, but minions strong in this instance. Not strong enough, though, Trelly. One more auto. That's all they should have thrown their way. The tier 1 and left is still standing. And it is very binary when it comes down to it. If tower is up, you don't get the gold. And so right now, the Dragons at least staving that off for a little bit longer. Maybe even aggression onto Netrioid. A little bit of poke at least their way. But you got to keep your eyes on LASBRA. Blinks in onto Netrioid, immediately goes in with the ult, looking for a second kill over here, but can't quite find it. And it doesn't touch from the Atlas either. Netrioid does his best Vote impression, loses the beats, but keeps his life. He's going to make it back to base safely.
Yeah, a little 1v1 in the jungle. Pegon wanted to rotate over, but got met up with Dardez. Didn't want to eat those auto attacks, so cannot make the full-on rotation. The Gamma Ray burst just did not have the damage as well. Both ADCs living with a sliver, but awesome Jake. But look, Panitom blinks in to get the CC.
Yeah, it's a really good pull, though, onto Jake. Get some good damage.
Wow.
But like you said, the CC from Panitom's just beautiful.
Jake should have been dead there 100%. That's a beautiful ultimate there from Panitom. And it was just for Peel. There was no kill attempt.
No.
He blinked in just to save his support there. That's insane.
And you know what, Charlie? That's why these guys work so well together.
That's true.
Mechanics on point. Saves him. Admittedly, won't have that ult for a little while. Does go for the Phalanx in the second item. So maybe a little tankier, maybe a little more survivable. But for another 100 seconds, and while that ult is down, we're going to be relaxing, I think, on the side of the Warriors, at least specifically from Panitom. I do want to ask you about that gank we saw earlier from Eset. He shows up in mid, goes for Tiger form. He's a little too slow to get anything done.
I see what you're setting up for.
Well, I'm really just wondering, does he go back for it? Do you rotate again as the Wukong, thinking that you can do something? Especially, I guess, around this beacon, which, by the way, spawns in. And this looks like a pretty easy cap from the Warriors. So, beacon aside, let's talk maybe Fury. Can Eset go for, like, just a standard issue gank?
Well, because of what you said, right? He tried to gank. He was a bit too slow. And so he thought to himself, how do I make sure that everyone else is slow?
Yeah.
So he built Frostbound Hammer. I thought that's what you were setting me up for, and I appreciate it regardless. But it seems like he's just trying to be annoying. That's my guess. Game number 2, he was the Yorm. He ended up building Gem of ISO, just trying to get as many slows as possible. This seems to be the same sort of call. I mean, just go towards these ADCs, make their life miserable, and the Jade Dragons drop the Atlas. Oh, this is telegraphed, and Jake, he's too late. It's over.
Yeah, tries to go in. Like you said, though, clean and crisp. That's the way the Dragons are playing this one. Charlie, I was going to say, for once, we aren't seeing all neutral objectives go to one side, but that was the first one we've gotten to see. I guess with the beacon going towards the Warriors, maybe that balances out a little bit. Pyro's going to be spawning in soon, and that'll be the true testament for where this has been going. But that Gold Fury cuts a chunk out of the lead of the Warriors. Keeps us within shooting range. It's 1-1, 13 minutes in. Still have yet to see a massive breakout fight.
Certainly have. Because of that, Pyromancer started up by the Warriors. They don't want to lose that Fury for free. But Dardez is nearby. Nika making the rotation in. It looks like it's going to go down before any Jade Dragons decide to show face. And the Runic Bomb goes in pocket of Panitom. And that's going to be it. You said it. No fighting. Objectives, yes, but towards each other, not the call. It's just been a whole lot of stepping up for invades and retreating as of recently. Just sitting at 1-1. LASBRA was able to grab a kill, of course, and Pegon able to grab one as well. Besides that, I mean, the real deficit, the one that we talked about a bit earlier on, has just been dual lane. It's really just been Netrioid on this Iza, pushing in waves a little bit stronger, a little bit better than Vote is able to on this Cernunnos. Besides that, game's looking relatively even.
Now, I know we had talked about it earlier, and I'll have to hold maybe the question for a second longer. Luckily, it is exactly the second. Now, you had mentioned some health shred, health steal in some of the mage builds. I think it was in game 1 we were talking about that. E-Staff picked up for the Merlin. You vibing with this, I guess, like in the current line of Merlin as something that is going to be beneficial, especially in a matchup against the Jing Wei.
I just really enjoy E-Staff, really in any meta, of course. When full flat pen is the call, that's one thing, but just being able to hit your long-range poke, which Merlin has a ton of, and then just being able to not only steal away that HP from the enemy, but build it up for yourself, just ends up being
super tanky,
really beneficial. Exactly, and if you can get the 3 stacks.
Look at his health bar.
Yeah, and it's just going to keep climbing. As long as Pegon's able to just, keep hitting one ability, as long as the timer doesn't reset, he'll stay very tanky and just make sure that he's always ready for a team fight. Even, I mean, we saw LASBRA die underneath the tower. Try doing that again with how much HP he's got built for himself and stealing it away from your teammates. So I do like the build a lot, especially when, considering how fast we've seen tanks die. We're in a self-imposed tank meta. That's what the whispers have been. But I've seen a lot of these tankier targets get shred through relatively quickly when around things like Dardez and Vote, right? The double ADC comps, things like that. I think Merlin could also add to that level of burn. But once again, shield buff is up. We see another little scrap for the Jade Dragons confirm it, but LASBRA's getting weak.
Yeah, absolutely melted, but the dash is good. Unfortunately, that's his ult that's gone, and Jake is going to look for a little more. They burn the blink as well, so relics and ultimate gone from LASBRA's kit. No chase down into the tier 2 tower. That seems a little too risky. Gold Fury's not going to spawn up, but as you mentioned, they get the shield buff. So maybe a heavy investment from LASBRA. Controlling ever so slightly the Warriors. And with no other neutral objectives available, you're not losing out on a lot of space on the map.
Not yet, but going in for that play right before Oni Fury spawns in, definitely a good call. You're able to shut down a lot of what LASBRA wants to do. Like, as a Pele, how are you diving to the back line without Volcanic Lightning, without Blink, without Beads? You're just not able to. So the Oni Warriors step up with the Oni Fury. They start to get some aggressive ward coverage. They get their vision. They step forward looking at Mike. And they're just pushing forward as a unit, making sure that no one can get in close. Seems like the Fury is going to be pulled immediately off spawn. Question is, does Nika try and teleport in? The answer is yes. He goes right to mid tower, so the Jade Dragons know exactly what's going on, and they're going to step up for the fight as well.
Nika, like you said, in the neighborhood. Wow, and impressively enough, that's all it takes for the Warriors to fall back. The appearance of a Ravana thwarts that.
He is scary.
The Stygian Beacon's going to be spawning in about a minute as well, so maybe giving some split objective opportunity here. Right in mid. which do you go for? If you, in this instance, it's easier, it feels like, to cap the beacon than it is to go for the Oni Fury. But no matter what you do, I feel like either team's going to step up to fight.
Yeah, you don't want to give either of them up. If you're the Oni Warriors, with the lead they have, you definitely are just going in for the Fury. If they get the beacon, unfortunate, but you can probably just send like 2 members of your team over, like Sot, to stall while you grab the Fury and then walk over, and that does seem to be the call. It was Jake and Netrioid going for the pull, all the while Sot sat near the beacon. But I still think Nika is one of the scarier targets on the map with this build. 4 full items, whereas Sot only has the 3. This Ravana is extremely tanky, still able to do some good damage to carries. It's not going to be easy to try and zone a Ravana with Blink off the back line. And that's why he's just going to stand here on the beacon and make sure it doesn't cap as quickly. And here comes Mike and Dardez. They want to put their extra capping pressure towards this objective to make sure it goes in their favor. But it looks like Sot and Jake don't feel too much pressure just yet.
Well, finally pushed away from the objective. The numbers matter here. Capture point is absolutely stacking in favor of the Dragons. They're going to pick this one up, no problem. The beacon goes their way, but the fight afterward might be a different story. Jump in onto Mike. Damage good, but not quite good enough. Jake has to dash away. Sot too low. Barely makes it onto the somersault cloud, but has to disengage. 2 on either side. TKO'd, but none eliminated here, Trelly. A lot of action, a lot of potential. All that did was open up an Oni Fury. Question mark for the Dragons. They're not going to step forward to it. Teleport in from Sot in mid. Gives the Warriors the numbers advantage around the objective again.
Yep, but full on retreat is the call. And this is what I was talking about, though. We saw the blink in from Panitom. The damage just was not there. This Erlang Shen is not melting targets as you would expect. Mike gets low, but because of a great wild hunt from Vote, there really was no follow-up. And, of course, we saw how low SOT was able to get jumping onto the somersault cloud. Just did not have that survivability. So this Erlang is just a CC bot, hoping that Netrioid and Pegon are able to clean up some of these kills off of the Blink 9 turns blessing, off of the pins, things like that. Only 3 items online. Maybe the shred just gets, stronger as the game continues, but this is stalled out so much that Pyromancer is being looked at here, and Jake gets pulled back in. No one to dash to. SOT helps him out, but still very low on this Horus already. And the objectives haven't even been pulled yet.
And the damage around them, it feels like, at least return damage from the Warriors, not enough. You got minuscule healing that's coming from Jake and Jake alone. Yet it is still the Warriors standing partially aggressively against the Dragons around the Pyromancer. That's going to be some of the danger. I mean, we had talked about the build, was it last game? Or maybe it was 2 games ago from Jake. It was on the Sobek in game 1. Had a lot of health, very little prots. This time he's leaning a little heavier into the prots to help him out, but Trelly, the sovereignty and then a tier 2 breastplate, not keeping him alive as long as maybe he'd like.
No, I mean, you're hoping that the Bewitched Dagger kind of carries the majority of that weight, the attack speed slow for this. I was going to say double, but throw LASBRA in there, and Nika's even to throw some autos its way, so a lot of auto attack heavy composition. You're right, the Horus is not going to be living insanely long at the forefront of an engagement. You want to be able to dash away from the majority of the damage here for the Jade Dragons, but what a stalled out game. It was early aggression from the Warriors, and then just a halt in that aggression off of an early pull that the Jade Dragons were able to shred through since then. It has been a lot of baiting the line, I suppose, just seeing what you can try and find. And there has not been much found. Still sitting 1-1, 20 minutes in. What was it? 3 kills at 20 minutes game 1.
Yep, 3 kills at 20 minutes game 2.
Well, now only 2. We're down.
We're regressing. They've actually got less kills with more fights this game than what we've seen. Last couple have been nothing but dominance. Now the Warriors going to try to continue that. Not even try. Oh my god, that tower gets shredded in an instant for them. Maybe the benefit of having Netrioid rotate in level 19, which is now matched. It was a couple levels ahead of Vote for a while. But they're using that shred to good potential. Onto the tower, onto the Pyro. Now maybe onto the front line of the Dragons. Sot has taken some damage. Jake has to play carefully as well. It looks like the Wukong's going to be retreating here. Oni Fury still available over on left. And Trelly, I'm not a master of positioning, but based on the running that the Dragons are doing towards that side of the map, they're going to start it up here. Already half health. Up to the sky goes the Horus. Jake comes in, That's enough to separate the Fury from the Dragons. It's going to be the full 5-on-5. Mike taking a lot of damage. Mike burned down in an instant. Nika goes around to the back, but can't get too much done. Taunted in, and the damage is going to be there for the Ravana as well. The chase is on to get the solo laner. Not quite able to find him. Good knockups and good peel from the Dragons. Better chase from the Warriors. They're going to have the lock down. They just have to whittle through the health bar, and they finally get their 3 kills up for them. And they're going to continue their chase into the tier 2. Not able to get Dardez. The Phoenix going to thwart a lot of this. Sot clone getting a little bit of damage. Even Sot getting a little bit of damage. But it's the tier 2 that's the target for the Warriors. They pick that up. They're 4,000 gold in the lead. 3 kills to 1. They're going to take the Oni Fury on the retreat.
Yeah, seems like a bit of miscommunication there from the Dragons. I mean, Mike does go to the back line, but he gets absolutely turned on. Nika was there, but a little bit too slow. It seemed like he had an opportunity to blink away, but maybe he was just trying to get out of combat as quickly as possible and just was not able to. And then, of course, the Oni Warriors. Once you get that 1 pick, it's as simple as holding W. You have that chase down potential in spades. And they're able to grab the tier 2 tower, as you said, and grab the Oni Fury. That's going to push up these minions, which in my mind is an easy opportunity for the Warriors to group up and head towards this Fire Giant, right? I mean, someone's going to have to deal with the wave, and it seems like Vote is just setting up camp over on left lane for now. And that's the place. Netrioid's heading over to right. Fire Giant is definitely going to be looked at here. You got to start thinking about burst potential and confirmation. I don't see anything too easy. Dark Portal from Netrioid will be decent. But if LASBRA finds a nice blink to the back line, it'd be scary. And look at Dardez' health already. He's got no beams.
Look at Pegon. He's just leading the way, not only burning through Dardez, but now looking to burn through Mike as well. Double kill for the mid laner. Ooh, and LASBRA, if he wasn't playing any carefully, it would have been 3 picked up for the Merlin. Instead, they clock it in. And with this advantage, Trelly, it is exactly what you had asked for. Fire Giant started up 24.5 in, and the kills are starting to roll in for the Warriors.
Yeah, confusing positioning there. I mean, Mike unfortunately dies for Dardez' sins. He tried to step up to save him, but Dardez didn't have his airstrike up. He just ulted out previously. Just did not have any sort of survivability. He's got Shell, but it wasn't available, and uses the beads. Jing Wei is not safe enough to try and survive that one. And now, the Oni Warriors are grouped up in right and mid lane. All the while, the Jade Dragons are over on left. Might as well cap the beacon in the meantime, just to try and get that extra buff before your siege. But tier 2 on right almost certainly goes down here. Nika's actually hiding in the jungle, but probably just to try and stall this. But again, Dardez doesn't have beads. He's forced into the ultimate. Why is he stepping so far up?
Well, right now it's to lose his beads and then to lose his ultimate, right? It just feels like you're not going to be able to get away. Unfortunately for them, Titans going to spawn in. Titans going to be running down right this time around. So the Warriors' opportunity to push forward. Trelly, they give us a little bit of breathing room and maybe a chance to check in. You had actually mentioned it earlier, Panitom. I feel like it's because of the Merlin that we don't have to worry about his damage numbers or about the fact that his build, like, you know, he's gone for a little bit extra in terms of damage items, but he's sitting 3rd from the bottom. Very unfortunate that Vote is actually below him over there.
Yep.
But it feels like he's been just a setup machine, and when Pegon's doing as much damage as Pegon is doing, or Netrioid as well, I don't know that I care. That Panitom's not the one putting up the big damage numbers.
And if that's the case, then I want to see something like Kumba Jungle. You know, if we're just setting up for everyone, can't get much better than that. Of course, Erlang farms the map a bit better, but that's what I'm talking about. Protector.
Was it a Kumba? No.
Protector of the jungle, Phalanx, Midgardian male. I mean, he might as well just go like Spirit Robe last item. Even more protections, just trying to set up for his team. Netrioid and Pegon do the heavy lifting. Left side bird is the target. Titans are clashing over on the right side of the map, but not a soul over there to watch. The Oni Warriors can take their time, though. Remember, Awesome Jake has to the skies. They're just going to step in slowly first before going in for the all-in commit.
If 2 Titans fight in solo, but no one's around to see it, did they really fight?
I can see the HP bar dropping.
No, they are
so
actually
yes.
fighting. Yes, the answer is yes to that. And we'll see, I guess, who gets the advantage. I believe it was a 2-1 split in favor of the Warriors in terms of the beacons. 1st and 3rd going their way, 2nd one going towards the Dragons. That also matters coming into this siege because you get a little bit of extra damage. Looks like the Titans are going to go down about the same time And that's going to be the engage on left. Mike, once again, just burned through in an instant. Nika might be the next on the chopping block. The Phoenix goes down. The Dragons are pushed back. But the Warriors have different targets in mind. LASBRA in the jungle chased down. It was trying to lead him on a wild goose chase. Instead, it will be the Phoenix as the target one more time for the Warriors. They're going to start that one up, no problem. Take it down, no problem. Their Titan's still moving forward over on the right-hand lane. Has a group of minions with him. And with the right side Phoenix going down, it's going to be a full advantage open base for the Warriors as they try to get aggressive. Nika, relatively low, same for Vote, but Mike's about to respawn. Fire Giant, only 30 seconds left. They're going to recognize their siege maybe has ended, but with 3 Phoenixes, they're going to be pretty happy to fall back.
Unfortunately, they just abandoned their Titan, though. They just leave him behind to die, and I didn't love the siege there, or I guess the defense, rather, from the Jade Dragons. Once again, Mike sieges forward, and it seemed to me the Jade Dragons made a call. Hey, we're going to defend this Phoenix. Let's step forward. Mike does so, but there was no follow-up. The dive wasn't there. Nika actually ends up using that ultimate defensively to back up instead of going in. So, was the call to defend or not, right? If you're going to step up that forward, Atlas doesn't have too much get in, get out potential. He is either I am ready, I'm dropping my ultimate, we're going in, or I'm kinetic charging out. And it looks like Panitom's got a great opportunity to try and kill Mo here with the ult from Awesome Jake just to confirm the kill. Remember, there's no birds up. Another pick here could be the end of the game.
Yeah, a minute-long timer for the carry, who's going to be sitting in the grayscale while the Warriors walk forward towards the base. 5 strong, Fire Minions in left, Fire Minions in mid, and even though they're pretty far behind, Fire Minions over there and right as well. Grouping from the Warriors around the mid. Phoenix looking to try and go up to have advantage in this set and put themselves on set point. They step in and they're looking to melt through people, but Netrioid goes down first. LASBRA joins him in death. That might be enough. Without Netrioid, they lose a lot of their damage. Pegon has to put the work forward, has the burn for Mike. Not quite, there it is. The tick damage afterward, finds it, and that's 3 gone on the Dragons, 1 still gone on the Warriors. Somersault Cloud for Sot, keeps him alive. Trelly, they don't like their odds right now, especially without Net. They're going to back up, and instead we're going to start talking about an enhanced Fire Giant.
Yeah, seems like a fight that wanted to happen but didn't need to happen. The Oni Warriors step up, try and see what they can find, and they find some picks, but they also lose their ADC's life, which means enhanced Fire Giant's not going to be done anytime soon, and of course you're not going to go in for the actual end call there. So props to the Jade Dragons for at least shutting down the first advance, but 3 birds down, you got a half-health Titan, and you have to try and find a way to defend EFG. Remember, last game in this instance, the Jade Dragons siege forward, they fight at the Fire Giant. They say, we're putting all of our tables down. It's 3 waves of Fire Minions. Even if you are going to fight, it's at best a 4v5 and you're letting a wave push in. And at worst, a 3v5, and that's not even possible to try and win here. So the Jade Dragons have to do their best to, number 1, stay back and keep those waves pushed up, and number 2, set up an ambush somewhere that they're not fighting in the Titan room. Their Titan is simply too weak to take a scrap near their fountain. And with the ultimate from Horus available, they gotta also be looking for the skies.
You gotta be careful here if you're Nika. You had mentioned it earlier, relatively tanky. And I think we're still seeing that. Does not take a lot of damage. Meanwhile, Mike is getting burned, and the tick damage once again takes his life. Nika jumps in, but Nika cannot get it done this time. Frontline for the Dragons gone. Meanwhile, frontline for the Warriors. Sot's barely able to get up under the Somersault Cloud, but he gets there. LASBRA comes in. LASBRA's a wrecking house right now. Triple kill for the jungler, looking for 4. If he can just find Panitom, but the health bars are low, and it's getting dangerous. Jake's gonna go in, and Panitom's going with him. They want the kill. But what can this Pele do? Nothing! As they control it with the CC and with Fire Minions running into the base Trelly, that just wins them the game. The full-on deicide, and now on set point for the Warriors.
It was a win-win regardless, even if Awesome Jake doesn't keep Panitom alive there. There's no way LASBRA was clearing out all of those Fire Minions, and of course he wasn't able to kill the Horus. That's what I'm talking about, though. They had an option. Do we go in for the fight? This time it ends up pretty well. I mean, LASBRA gets a triple, close to a quadra if that ultimate from Awesome Jake doesn't come through. But the Oni Warriors had a very easy line to victory, and it was the Titans half HP, and there's 3 waves of Fire Minions pushing forward. It just seemed like the Jade Dragons weren't able to draw that line in the sand. They weren't able to stop that gold lead from piling up, and by the time they found a fight, just a little bit too late.
Put themselves in a position to win the set. or at least win the game, now are in a position to try and win the set. It's 2-1 for the Warriors. Trelly, a lot on the line for him, right? We've been looking at this revitalized dragon. We saw what they could do in game number 1, but you strip some of that pressure away. You try to play the Warriors of the game they've been playing best all year, and so far, game 2, very controlling. Game 3 was a lot closer. What do the Dragons need to do? They're dragging it back over towards their side. How do they step forward?
I don't think taking away the ease of engage is as simple as taking away Awesome Jake's Horus, but it would be a good start. I think having that much mobility, that sustain and ease of pulling beads has been a bit of a problem in game 2 and 3.
Well, maybe keep your eyes on the Horus. Keep your eyes on any adjustments from the Dragons. They're going to need it here if they want to go to 5 and have a chance of winning this one. We'll find out what happens in game 4 right after this.
that's a rival. That much is true. Yeah, I know you said, baby, this is final. And I blame myself. All that's left of me now is an animal. And I cry for help. I wish my call's gonna reach you. Give it my all, 'cause I need you. Oh, let it go, let it go, let it go till I get you alone. I can't help but howl like a wolf. Howl like a wolf. I wish my call's gonna reach you. Give it my all, 'cause I need you. I will howl like a wolf. Baby, I will howl like a wolf. When the sun fades, when the night awaits, I'll be howling and howling and howling for you, babe. Can't keep my pain quiet any longer. Gotta let it out.
The master of life and death takes front stage. Let's liven things up, shall we? Come, the party's this way.
Well, in the words of the man Baron Samedi himself, be sure to pick up some brew. Our good friends over at Advanced GG have now brought us not only a new flavor, but also a new Baron's Brew Shaker. So make sure that you pick up both of those over at advanced.gg. Both of those on sale now if you put them together as a bundle. Otherwise, you can use the discount code SMITE to get 10% off on the rest of your order. So make sure you go over to Advanced GG and pick up on our new exclusive flavor and shaker, the Baron's Bundle. Thank you so much for Advanced GG for joining us in year 10 of SMITE in Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League. Here in game number 3 of this set, though, Mifflin, a little bit closer to start things out. Probably one of our closest early games that we've seen between these two teams. But early game damage woes coming from the Dragons, not able to finish off some of those kills. And more than anything, just the neutral farm of the Oni Warriors carrying them through the early game and then carrying its way in towards the late game.
Yeah, there was also a bit of an unfortunate stumble from LASBRA on that first tower dive attempt, jumping into the tower at level 5. Maybe not the most recommended place to be, especially considering he had gone for a bit of a slower build. I believe it was Soul Eater in first slot. Tends to slow down your burst potential, and we'll get a pretty good look at it immediately. Pegon simply makes it happen, and from there, with an early game composition on the Jade Dragons, just felt like there wasn't a whole lot they'd be able to do in the late game team fight from a deficit. I say early game, and I know you're looking at a double hunter draft. You're thinking, well, why are they so early? And I think it comes down to a lot of what we had said in the initial P's and B's, which is this is a Jade's Dragon composition that was really going to struggle on initiation. When they needed to be the aggressor, when they needed to get the fight started on their own, it was almost entirely up to PBM. Is he landing a pull? If yes, you landed one pull, right? And maybe you get your pick, maybe you don't. But if he doesn't, who else is going to CC? Does it have to be Nika with a single-man route? Is it going to be LASBRA with a knock-up every single time? I think a little bit too much weight to put on to those frontliners, and not enough CC to go around on the Jade Dragons. So the Oni Warriors given a little bit of leeway in when they started the fights and how they were able to counter-engage the fights, won out on the majority of the late-game engagements. Any 5-on-5 that came their way just felt like the Oni Warriors had a much easier time finding their kills.
Yeah, we did see a little bit of light, at least, out of LASBRA and the Dragons in that kind of final team fight. LASBRA was able to find himself a triple kill on the Pele, but just not enough damage to kill off the two tanks. And, well, by the time that fight had already broken out, all 3 Phoenixes were knocked down. The Titans had already collided at that point, and the Titans had like 25% HP and the minions walk in. So a little too late for kind of that final pushback there by the Jade Dragons, but able to still at least hold out for a little bit. Those first 20, 22 minutes of the game, still very even as far as the goal was concerned, maybe about 4,000 at the most anywhere get through. But it felt like every time the Dragons were winning out in small skirmishes, not necessarily getting the kills, it was just, hey, we pushed them back to base, hey, we're able to invade this buff, that buff. They were always still down in that XP, down in gold, and probably the most noticeable difference in that XP department was over in the duo lane. I mean, it was a level 7 vote to level 9 on Netrioid at one point, and there had been no fighting in the duo lane. It wasn't like a tier 1 tower was gone. It was an even lane, but Netrioid just had such a clear XP advantage.
Yeah, dual lane's been doing very well so far today throughout. Just a good deal of pressure from the Oni Warriors dual lane. And generally, you could just say a good deal of pressure from the Oni Warriors, and that'd be a blanket statement on its own. Everywhere we've been playing through pressure. It feels like they've adapted their playstyle a bit to emphasize individual lanes. And today has been the duo. They've really been locking things down, transitioning in towards those neutral objectives, rotating for control points or even just oracles. I saw a couple of rotations from Netrioid towards those. Just giving them the numbers advantage in all these early game fights tends to work out.
Well, let's see what does get shifted up here and what adaptations are made for game number 4 of the best of 5. It would be potential game 3 win now for the Oni Warriors. They can seal this one out. They win out the set and they move on to the grand finals and then wait for the winner between the Hounds and the Ferrymen that will play a little bit later on today. Jade Dragons, they need a win here and a win in game 5 if they want to be the team that moves on to the finals. And I was starting to wonder for a moment here, Myth. Do you ban out maybe a little bit more focus in the dual lane? This Izanami Horus 2 games in a row has worked really well for the Oni Warriors. Now with them moving into first pick, chances for the Dragons to take away maybe one of those options there. Do you think that might be a call for the Dragons to try and slow down that duo momentum?
Maybe, but if I were to ban out anybody, it likely would just be the Horus. Izanami is incredibly high pressure, but there are other options that could put out similar pressure. Rom still comes to mind, even if it isn't coming to the mind of the pros themselves. I remember last week and how dominant that pick was, so it feels as if an Izanami ban won't affect them too much. The Jade Dragons, though, seem to think it will, and Izanami will be the 3rd ban for them overall. Cern taken away from by the Oni Warriors in their 3rd slot, and everybody forgets what had happened in the first 2 games of this set. Jormungandr, 100% win rate so far here today, has been putting out immense damage, feels unkillable in the laning phase. Itemization, still tanky, but also threatening to the backline. A god that has quickly risen through the charts.
Now option goes back to the Jade Dragons. I kind of wanted just to pull up the stats just to make sure I wasn't mistaking in this, but a single game that Netrioid has not won on the Izanami out of now 9 games that he has played this pick.
That's pretty good.
So sitting upwards of nearly a 90% win rate on that selection during the regular season and 8.6 KDA on it as well for the 7 games that he did play it then. So definitely his most comfortable and one of his most winning picks here in Season 10. With that Jormungandr for the Warriors, that opens up the Horus. So now you've banned the Izanami and taken the Horus away from Jake. So you've effectively nullified what has been working for the dual lane of the Oni Warriors. But with this Marty pickup here, we have so far today only seen this Marty as the lone hunter in compositions. I wonder if the Jade Dragons mix that up here in Game 4 and add a second hunter to the mix.
Potential to do so, but I feel like Jormungandr's got a pretty decent matchup into hunters. The ability to sneak up, knock him up into the air, have the rest of your team jump onto him, or potentially just go for your burst and immediately into the World Serpent. Very threatening. And then the reset potential of World Serpent, either back to base or teleport back in afterward or continue your onslaught if you hadn't taken too much damage, might dissuade the Jade Dragons from going towards another hunter pick here. But even if they do, you also have the option to just double kin size build and really start to deal with some of these larger bodies that the Oni Warriors likely will be drafting. So yes, can do it. Will they do it? Maybe not. That seems to be the case with Marty here today. Regardless, it still is a high-pressure pick and a high-pressure dual lane potentially for the Jade Dragons if Marty isn't slated for mid. Really fast, wave clear, should have decent control on neutral camps as well. That buff on the left-hand side, the shield buff, likely will go over to the Jade Dragons. I can't imagine a lane from the Oni Warriors that would be able to match pressure immediately. Rom Aphrodite makes a good argument for it, but Aphrodite takes a few levels before she is able to clear out those waves. But Rom, a pick that we had been calling for all day, J-Mac, you and I. Where's the Rom? What's going on? What happened to him? This is what happened. It's taken a few bans and a few pick-aways, but finally, the Oni Warriors decided to take the Rom mantle.
So now we only wonder where the Hachiman is. That's the only other one we're questioning is where did he disappear to? Maybe we'll see him.
Where's my Guan Yu at?
You know, where's Guan? Where's Hachi? Where's Terra?
What happened to Terra?
What happened to so many picks, man? Week number 2 is feels almost like a completely different meta than what we've been seeing from week 1 of Masters. Aphrodite comes back into Jake's hands this time. Similar to at least Netrioid's stat line for the Izanami. 7 games played in the regular season, 6 of those being wins for Jake. One of the only players in the league who is finding majority success on this pick. We saw some mixed from some of the other supports, or for a few supports, complete losses with that style. So we'll have to see what the Afro Rom lane can do for the Oni Warriors up against potentially the Horus and Martichoras. But then Cucullin now for the Jade Dragons. Adds a little bit of anti-heal in the kit with that first ability. Gives you a decent bit of area control as well, and some nice CC once you're in that rage form too.
And one of the most valuable forms of CC at that. The knock-up and base stance, I think, going to be very important for the Jade Dragons. Aphrodite is very good at maintaining her carry's relics. Undying Love is Beads and Aegis built into one, but just like Beads, has a weakness. If you're already in the air, it's not going to deliver you back to the ground. So knock-ups from either Horus or Cucullin might be able to find their value regardless, even with Undying Love on the table here for the Oni Warriors. Hebo by the Jade Dragons taken away. The Oni Warriors, eyes towards the Ratatoskr. LASBRA has a phenomenal performance on that one. A little bit earlier. I believe it was 7-1, topping the damage charts as well, so get him off of one of his favorites. But there still are a few priority jungle picks available. Daji comes to mind, but will the Jade Dragons be willing to take Daji into an Aphrodite? Feels a little bit miserable. It's not like the Hell matchup where Cleanse is going to hit everybody, but Undying Love can break those chains as well. With both teams needing a jungle, both teams going to be taking shots at each other. Hebo and Bakasura, Ratatoskr. Shots at both the Oni Warriors and the Jade Dragons. Mutually assured destruction. We're going down the tier list.
Yeah, it kind of feels though maybe with that Hebo, Bakasura, we always talk about, who are you going to link to as an Aphrodite? And usually the answer is one of those two picks, sometimes both, if your team is fortunate enough to be able to grab them. And I wouldn't put it past the Oni Warriors to have drafted both those compositions to give Jake an easy time. I'll figure out who to link to. Jade Dragons, there's the Hachiman and the Rom, so we've reverted back now to week number 1's Hunters, but
and they're so much worse now.
I know, it feels like they've stepped down an entire maybe 2 tiers in the tier list at this point by going back, but we will see the Rom and Hachiman that was so prevalent last week now rear its head here in game number 4 of this best of 5. So what does that leave now for the Oni Warriors? Pegon, Panitom still need their selections. Well, it's so much that's been kind of just banned away. Pegon losing out on the Hebo, losing out on the Set, but still plenty of mage options to go back to, and maybe even some other options as well.
Assassin options as well. It's been a while, but we've seen a whole lot of physical mid from Pegon. You've already got a double magical lineup on the Oni Warriors. You could take a Hunter here towards mid, and I wouldn't be surprised from the Warriors. Could also go towards something maybe like Susano. That Pele could be for mid too. A double assassin composition when you've got an Aphrodite, turning one of those assassins essentially into an off tank, means that your dive potential is going to be through the roof. Between Pele and Susano, I think I'd prefer to see the Pele in mid. Her dive potential a little bit easier to execute on, wave clear, a little bit more consistent. And Panitom is just kind of the Susano guy.
Man, they make our job so hard with that though, because you think Pele and Susano, both picks that Panitom and Pegon have played in the past in their respective roles. It's not like Pegon jumped into jungle and played the Susano. He was running that mid against some of the other pro teams out there, but Pele mid, at least the option that you're leaning towards for the Oni Warriors. And now Erlang Shen, drafted last game, found its first win out of the 4 that's been played through, and now will make its home over onto the Jade Dragons. Another composition that we see here with Triple Warrior popping its way through here. It's
draft.
All physical for the Jade Dragons. How does that bode as we start scaling late game, though?
I'm thinking some defense probably gets built here by the Oni Warriors. I wouldn't hate seeing Rom have like a Berserker shield or something like that. Just 5-Fizz draft, you've at least got a little bit of defense shred on your team between Horus and Marty, so maybe it could work out. Man, the pros, when they decide to all in on propaganda or a bit, and right now it's mages and magic damage ain't all that, they all in. They mean it when they say it. The Jade Dragons jockeying and vying for the attention of the designers. It seems like here, hey guys, please buff our mages, because this is a very physically slanted composition that honestly feels like could have just had a magical jungle or something like that to turn things around. That Erlang Shen could have just been an Wukong, or something to at least make the Oni Warriors think a bit harder as to what they would like to play or what their build should be. I've got confirmation here from production backstage, so it is Susano for the jungle and Pele for mid here for the Oni Warriors, but it's Hachiman mid for the Jade Dragons, just completely going against the grain. Generally, when we do see double hunter compositions that include Marty has traditionally been that mid laner, just for his ability to push out those waves so easily, remain safe, and doesn't necessarily need to concern himself with ganks. The ability to banish yourself, remove yourself from the playfield with death from above, so valuable when the jungler is hovering your lane often, but instead, Hachiman still is very safe, so should be able to displace himself relatively easily. I wonder, I say all that waffling to try and figure out where the Jade Dragons' power points lie.
Right.
Is it going to be a late game composition? Double Hunter tends to lean itself towards that, right? 2 6-slotted Hunters, it's a lot of DPS, but when you're thinking about how much defense the Oni Warriors can build, it almost makes me feel like the Jade Dragons are on a timer, right? Can they leverage Double Hunter towards objectives in the early? If yes, maybe you build enough of a lead that your 5 Fizz composition won't come back and bite you. It's hard to say, man. It really is an aberration, an outlier from what I've become accustomed to seeing over the last 11 years of SMITE. Jade Dragons doing something different. I just got to prefer the Oni Warriors draft. I'll go ahead and say it. Look, Oni Warriors all the way here from Myth.
Oni Warriors seem to be the favorite moving into the grand finals. The Jade Dragons have got to stop them here in game number 4. Can they do it, or are the Warriors going to remain undefeated? Let's jump into game 4.
Not just remain undefeated, but potentially set even further a record, Trelly. That's what the Warriors could continue to try to do here. It's Gore, aforementioned Trelly, hanging out with me, and of course Doug, giving us the view into the battleground. As we jump into this 70-30 split, I think that's the widest it has been so far this set for the Twitch chat. And I gotta ask you, I mean, Hachi mid, full 5 Fizz. Dragons, I mean, Myth says they're doing something different. He prefers the Warriors. I just want to know, is it good different, bad different? Is this the kind of different that breaks the mold and gets us to a game 5?
It's a rough different, for sure. Yeah. Because let's be clear, trying to, take on the Oni Warriors at any moment like with their current streak and everything they've been able to do so far with this team is going to be difficult. Now you set you up with a 5 physical draft. Of course, they do have built-in prot shred. That will be a bit of it. That won't be the issue, right? They've got the prot shred. It's just you get so much value out of double dipping into these different aura items. We've seen time and time again the Oni Warriors facing this double hunter composition go into the mid guard. They get a horrific. They get the Bewitched Dagger. They have so many different options for slowing the attack speed. But it seems like the Jade Dragons are showing their hand pretty early, right? They're like, hey, we practiced double hunter objective shred compositions. I am going to be going, that's it, right? Let's just stick to what we know. Whether it's double fizz or not does not seem to matter. And actually, LASBRA was setting up for a possible cringe gank over on SOT at level 2, but he spotted out and decided to stay back. Smart call. The Yorm does not have beads, so a pin from the Erlang could have been disastrous, especially when Nika transformed right there at level 2. So smart call. Just to stay back and say, hey, maybe if we don't see LASBRA in mid lane, I should stay pretty far safe over on the right side of the map.
At least still he has ult, right? And then all of a sudden it's maybe a different conversation of safety once again. Back into the fray. Feels good to be a Jormungandr. Panitom, Pegon, back on the assassin duo in mid. Feels like it is just going to be potentially devastating. We saw last time. Transcendence is online, things like that. Stacking items that took a little bit of time. Based on what I'm seeing up at the very front, at least for Pegon, maybe not changing too much in that regard. And then Trelly, a pick that we have picked on a lot. Pretty much whenever it's played by anyone that's not Jake, but played by Jake this time. And so maybe less picked on. The Aphrodite joining the Warriors, something that has been losing a ton of games. The Warriors have just been winning, though, so things work out well for them. We'll see if they can continue that for an early first blood. They go up onto Mike. The dash is good onto Vote. And the Horus able to disengage before things get too squirrely for him. Sot can't quite say the same. Couldn't get the level 2 cringe gank. Went back at level 3. LASBRA, first blood against the solo laner.
Yep, unfortunately, I said no beats on the Yorm. Dardez, plenty of HP to try and live this one, it would seem, unless they want to dive tower, which we learned last game. Pele diving tower early on, probably not the best call. So at the very least, you pull the beads off of Dardez, but he lives to see another day. And that was double blink used, by the way. All the while, scrapping happening all over. Awesome Jake has to sprint away from the frenzy pop. Literally fighting in every single lane. I mean, Sot didn't really fight back. That was more of just a, you just have to die. But fighting in mid and over on the left side of the map. I was just about to ask you, are we going to 20 minutes again with only 2 kills.
Yeah, we were talking about that coming into the room.
Does not seem like we're set up for that sort of game.
It's the earliest first blood we've got this set so far. Every other one has been around the 7, 8, I think even last game was 9-minute mark. It took a while to get there. Even the last game we had a lot of fighting. And so the Dragons able to at least get us on the board a little faster. But Trelly, I don't know if we can sit back and be happy about it just yet.
Nope.
Till we see 4 kills before 20 minutes. Things are going to be maybe still a little shaky, of course, how aggressive they get. And it's around that level 5 mark we were saying that things might get, difficult anyway. All of a sudden you're going to have, when they hit it over in duo lane, the Undying Love, which suddenly gives all sorts of protection, straight up immunity, that you're going to be able to survive with. Yorm already level 5, now going to have a lot of CC immunity to disengage. Pele might just try to kill you faster than you can kill her. So definitely a window maybe shutting for the Dragons. Maybe opportunities rising for the Warriors. But first blood goes their way no matter what. And this is maybe the closest lead. We're 4 minutes in, so that's definitely jumping the gun. But at least from what we've seen over the last few games, we've got to 1,000, 1,200 gold leads without a first blood. Now even with first blood, it's only a few hundred gold separating them. And not too much aggression from the Dragons after that successful gank.
And that's what I'm expecting because, LASBRA is the kind of jungler that plays through momentum very well. He gets an early first blood on this Erlang Shen, and he wants to continue that, right? He wants a second kill as quickly as possible. There is, I was going to say very little beads. There is essentially no beads. It's just Netrioid that is going to have that CC immunity. LASBRA was fearing the Volcanic Lightning and actually used the 9 turns blessing just to try and get that heal in case Pegon goes in, but decided against it. Pegon just wants to stack up Soul Eater. He doesn't want to go in for that fight.
We've learned a lot about Pele's with 20 stacks on their Soul Eater today.
Yep. We might learn something about Nika's survivability, but unfortunately, no kill potential there. Nika actually started the Stone of Gaia, probably realizing something that I recognized. There's a lot of knockups on the side of the Oni Warriors as far as their CC goes, and it does not seem like they have too much CC otherwise. If it's not a knockup, not too much to worry about. Dardez does have the ultimate, though. And actually, Panitom dives this. The ult.
There's going to be as simple as pressing 4 gets the kill there. And then the Undying Love, the healing as well. Looking for the peel from Jake. They need a little more damage. And they've got what they need. One more hit is all it takes. LASBRA goes down. 2 kills for the Warriors. And Pegon somehow, through all of that, manages to live.
Awesome, Jake. This is why this Aphrodite, for him and him alone, has been so effective. It is so difficult to get those clutch Undying Loves off. I can tell you, 9 times out of 10, the Aphro has to hit a clutch kiss into Undying Love, and it's going to miss one of those abilities, right? It's just not going to happen. But lands the kiss onto Pegon, gets the immunity, then heals him up through the fight. There was just no anti-heal on the side of the Jade Dragons. LASBRA, 1 auto. Would have done it.
Yep.
Could not find it, unfortunately. And that means Pele lives to see another day. And I cannot believe that Dardez ends up falling down there. He had the mounted archery, but unfortunately did not take the horse far enough in his tower, and Panitom was still able to teleport in, get the last bit of damage, and use that Typhoon to confirm the dive. And now, I think we can exhale. 3 kills before 7 minutes instead of 20.
Which means nothing happening for 14 minutes.
Nope, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop here, Gore. The fighting,
they want to fight.
It will continue. And I think both teams want to fight. This is the Oni Warriors' aggression, no doubt, but LASBRA was there. LASBRA was game, right? He stepped forward. He was looking for the scrap. It's not like the Jade Dragons are just rolling over.
The question, I guess, is really, especially now that Soul Eater's finished, Pegon looks like he's going somewhat hybrid, right? Standard for a mage, or at least a mid laner, which is damage item into prot item into presumably more damage afterward. But looks like gearing up for the potential to jump in, kill off a lot of people, and be present. And the other thing, we've kind of touched on it, and maybe we'll have to hold that thought for a moment. Nika's taking a little bit of poke here. Panitom continuing the chase. The spit is good. Ult was there for Panitom, but didn't go for it. Speaking of ult, taunt in from LASBRA keeps Pegon engaged. Pegon walks away, but hovers around, has the ultimate himself. Could go for a little bit of damage. You have to be careful not to get 1v1'd here. Panitom's coming over. So is Jake. Doesn't seem like the dive on the tier 1 is going to happen. So they'll put a little pause to that. But we've mentioned the 5 physical of the Dragons.
Yep.
And what we're going to see is how easily that makes it for the Warriors to just chase him down, dive the tower.
He gets 2? No.
Does not die. No way does Panitom walk out of there.
Wow.
Sot still goes down, a little bit of a balancing act. Jake has to play carefully. And Pegon's left out to dry because of it. So the Warriors may be biting off a little more than they can chew in some instances. But really the point I'm trying to get to, and that we'll see, Sovereignty's a good item, and then the other physical protection items that the Warriors are going to be picking up throughout all of this. It just benefits everything that they're going to be sieging into.
I mean, first of all, yes, because you've been trying to make that point for 3 minutes, and I have to acknowledge it. And there is going to be physical defense built from the Oni Warriors. But Sot taking up that tower, that was a bro move, right?
That was a bro.
He could very easily have dropped that, let Panitom die, and he would have got out scot-free. But it looks like PBM wants a stun on a Pegon, does find it. Do you have the DPS to get to the Soul Eater, though? It does not look like it. And Dardez is going to run away before Panitom gets himself another kill.
Ooh, LASBRA's here, though. Taunt back in on to
The
Pegon.
sustain.
And yeah, the sustain is the correct thing to focus on there. Absolutely insane. Pegon is alive at this point. I mean, it feels like he's taken enough damage to die twice over. But he's hovered at the half health mark. And not had to worry too much about it. Did have to use a decent bit to disengage there. But ultimately doesn't feel too much pressure. Instead is still applying pressure onto Dardez. And Charlie, neutral objectives, that's been the conversation in the past. We're getting within shooting range of the Stygian Beacon. We're also getting within spawn range of a Pyromancer and conversation range of a Gold Fury. But it feels like a lot is riding on this god right here, right? Pegon, the Pele, the potential that it has is just insane.
I absolutely love, that Pegon just walked up to those mid camps, 1v2. There was no backup anywhere in sight. Had no beads. His ultimate wasn't even back up yet. And Dardez and LASBRA ran. They were like, oh man, someone must be coming. It's not just Pegon here. Nope, it was literally just him. He feels that level of confidence. Finishes up the breastplate. You were talking about how much protections could be built, and just double dip into that CDR. It's going to help out a ton as he goes into what I can assume is going to be the Transcendence, Heartseeker. So many different options from the Morningstar tree that are going to be benefiting your Pele dive. But the Oni Warriors are not ones to shy away from the scrapping, especially when they're ahead early. So I expect that Gold Fury to be looked at very soon, at the very least. And this goes in favor of the Jade Dragons. Netrioid's on something like the Rama. It's different from the Iza. You're not just going to get infinite pressure. You can't just push Vote under tower consistently. And because of that, Vote should be able to step up closely to Gold Fury. He should know when Netrioid rotates out of lane pretty quickly. When you're under tower and you just have to sit there and you can never really track your enemy ADC, that's one thing. But when you constantly know exactly where this Rama is, dashing under your tower, for example, you're going to have a good idea.
Well, you have Jake as well as backup for Netrioid. One thing I was going to mention is maybe happily so for Dragons fans. This is the first time in a couple of games we panned over to the duo lane, and it hasn't been an immediate 2-level lead for Netrioid, much to what you were saying. A little more, not even balanced, just fit matchup for them. But the ult from Netrioid, that can be a different conversation, especially as the game goes on. We have seen some really good snipes over the last few weeks. I guess extend that even further, not just Masters, but really looking towards playoffs. Anytime that he has been pretty big, including the last couple of weeks of Phase 1. So some hopes for Netrioid, what he's going to be able to do for that pick. Some hopes right now for LASBRA, if you're a Dragon fan, to see if he can get something done. Does force the ult out of Pegon. They trade the taunt down, 9 turns Blessing. Going to be on cooldown for a little while. And more importantly, now that he's level 13, beads online for Pegon to stifle that exact kind of trade.
And you're going to take that trade because, number one, think about all the cooldown that Pegon's building.
Yep.
Your ultimate's going to be up way before LASBRA's does. So just saying, hey, I don't have beads, I'm going to have to time this perfectly, ends up doing so. Once that ult comes back up, probably pressure towards the left side of the map. Sot is going to be rotating out here, followed by Nika. So the solo laner's heading towards this beacon, but already the Jade Dragons have gotten up pretty close to cap, but they have to retreat once they hear the Yorms coming. And Dardez gets knocked up. This is definitely pressure towards the Oni Warriors towards this beacon.
Nika starts up the fight. Sot tanks the tower for too long, takes too much damage, and is gone. Pegon maybe following in his footsteps. A lot of damage thrown his way, has to fall back. Beacon swaying in favor of the Dragons, back in favor of the Warriors, now back in favor of the Dragons. Netrioid getting pushed out. Panitom can't do much about it. It should be a Beacon confirmation here for the Dragons. Pegon has to be careful not to get caught out. Rest of the Warriors scattered to the wind. Sot still not even respawned. It could be, should be, and will be a pull onto the Fury from the Dragons. 4 already over here. And it's 4v Pegon. Ult available for the Pele. What do you commit for it? Blink is there. Throws out an ability. Not enough for the steal. But admirable try in the face of adversity from the Warriors. It's 3-3 for the kills. We're back at a tie game.
Sick play, though. Ends up blinking the 9 turns blessing just to go in for the steal, but the Jade Dragons, and again, a rare misplay from Sot. Just dove way too long, had the World Serpent, was not able to get into the ultimate. He was just, maybe he was just a little bit surprised at how much damage he did to Dardez and was like, I have to go in for this kill. But just did not have the tank stats to try and do it. So the Jade Dragons show, if you step up a little bit too far, we can definitely kill you, even if you have decent tank stats built already. So Sot falls down, the Beacon goes the way of the Jade Dragons, the Fury goes the way of the Jade Dragons. Now, SOT sitting around the Pyromancer. No ADC in sight, Netrioid's still over by left, but Pegon could do some decent DPS towards this objective if it decides to get pulled. Does not seem to be the call. We've been talking about a lot of sustain, right? They've got the Soul Eater, they've got the Aphrodite. So far, anti-heal has not been something the Jade Dragons are prioritizing. I mean, maybe a Cursed Onk here from Mike at level 12, but so far, no anti-heal purchase just yet. Of course, you get some value there from Kakolin, but besides that, it's not going to be enough to deal with the Aphrodite that we've seen so far, the Soul Eater, the lifesteal that Netrioid's going to be putting into as well. You're going to need a little bit more if you're going to try and deal with all this sustain.
Heavier investment. I guess we'll see what happens in about 1 level there for Mike, where his adjustment's going to be. I also feel like, 2-0-1, this feels wild to be saying, but we haven't seen as much from Panitom the last couple of fights as we did early in the game.
Yep.
So maybe that small opening, same thing. I think Pegon is surviving, but thriving is what I think they want for the Warriors right now. And if I remember correctly, the 70-30 split in favor of the Warriors. The chat also wants him to be thriving. And you had mentioned it. I like bringing back this conversation because I feel like it works so best with the Warriors. Although for now, I'll put it on pause. As the Pyromancer started up by the Dragons, going to be attempted steals from the Warriors, but attempted, not successful. As the Dragons pick up the Pyromancer. And you had mentioned that the Aphrodite, and this was like week 2, maybe even earlier, of Phase 1, was really good when you had carries you could rely on, and a hyper carry to connect to, someone to determine the fight that is going to be the one that needs to survive. And I feel like with the Warriors, and we've had this conversation, I think, in the past as well, you've kind of got 4 people that you could just choose. Sot might be a little lower on the list some games, but Pegon, Panitom, Netrioid, it feels like Jake just has a plethora of people to choose from and to find success for himself as an Aphrodite.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that you've got plenty of options in a composition like this as well. You can easily be attached to Panitom on the Susano, Pegon on the Pele, or even Netrioid on the Rama. Yorm, not the best option if you really want to try and use that Undying Love right before he gets into World Serpent just to guarantee that he doesn't die. You could, but I think there's plenty of hard carries that you want to look for that ultimate elsewhere in a comp like this. So, the Afro is going to get some immense value as this game continues. But still, it's been a lot of, this duo lane where Netrioid's been pulling ahead. 2-level lead. I mean, 1.5 call it there for votes. 16. Netrioid just ticks over to 14. This Manticore, Marty, has not been getting involved in the fights just yet, but when he does, expect him to be swinging. Hasn't went into any Brawler's beat stick just yet, probably needing that extra penetration because his whole team is physical, and he recognizes, hey, everyone is building into a breastplate of valor. Like, I'm going to need a little bit extra pen here. So Titan's Bane picked up, but either way, it seems like Vote is going to be able to swing once he rotates into these fights. Has been spending a ton of time over in duo. This is the first time this set that I've seen him have a lead over Netrioid.
And you know what? That's an opening for the Dragons to maybe lean on. But they haven't, and that's the thing that's been interesting, right? We saw a lot of pressure, specifically for Netrioid on the Iza, that just opened things up. you had said it, Vote. When he rotates, it's going to be a big deal, but that's when he rotates. Maybe it'll work out in instances like this. Does have Mike in the neighborhood, so for the 2v2 they're there, but Panitom, as well as everybody else on the Warriors, starting to rotate over towards left. Primal Fury is up. Could be an option for either of these squads. But you need to pick to get that thing to kick off. Nika hanging out over here. Jake maybe playing a little too aggressive, but has his team around him. Mike seems to be the target for right now, burning him down to half health. He gets out of there right around Sot, who's been zoning out. Vote now into the World Serpent. Do they get aggressive and continue their chase? Or are they going to fall back? A little bit of damage onto Mike. Some knockback displacement from Sot. That's enough to get damage out there, Charlie, but they just aren't finding any kills. The potential for kills even feels low. In fact, for the Dragons, maybe sitting and waiting in their lap. Sot was easy to burn down earlier. Takes a good chunk of poke on his retreat. Walks on out of there. And a massive rotation from both teams. Beacon's about to spawn in. Seems like another fight on the horizon.
I love the fact that Dardez and Pegon just didn't rotate out of lane. Now the Primal Fury started up, but the Jade Dragons are here. This is a 50-50 at best, and the Oni Warriors, they're not dropping it.
They're 50-50. Also focusing on the Beacon, which Dardez has been sitting on. It's halfway charged, but it's going to get dropped. Warriors step forward. Panitom looks for the kill. At least a little bit of damage, not able to find either. Just goes for a small zone. Still 5-on-5 grouping. You had mentioned it. Primal picked up, then dropped. And it feels like the Stygian Beacon picked up, then dropped so far by both teams. A balancing point right around the wall, waiting for the opportunity for the engage. Stun just off the mark from Mike. Meanwhile, Jake's able to hit the kiss. Knockup's going to be good from Sot. But Trelly, it's a lot of staring each other down, waiting for the moment that hell breaks loose. Panitom's not even in the fight. It's a 5v4 till he comes back from base. Pegon has to be careful. Same for Netrioid. Health bar is getting kind of low. Afro does a lot of healing, but single target at best. Just waiting for that moment where something goes wrong, but slowly the Dragons are accruing exactly what they need. The Beacon, 3/4 full for them. Now Pegon's going to get involved, goes in. Good knockups and some slightly good damage. Great knockups coming down from Panitom, but they don't have the follow-through, and they haven't got any kills just yet. They're separating the space around the Beacon. Netrioid taking a lot of poke from Vote. The Vote has to fall back. Pegon goes in for the ultimate, has some good damage. But Charlie, they still haven't managed to find any kills. They're pushing them back. They're all low health bars. The Dragons walking away. Might have to give up the Beacon finally. The healing paying off. No deaths, no kills, but a lot of pressure from the Warriors over long extended engagement.
Definitely one of the longer fights we've seen over one of these Beacons. Finally goes the way of the Oni Warriors.
That might have been a 4-minute Beacon fight.
Yeah,
you could tell me and I'd believe you.
It started off so long ago. Sot was able to teleport back in. Nika transformed twice, I'm pretty sure. Like he really did transform twice, all because of just how much pressure and also how much disdain is on the side of the Oni Warriors. Jade Dragons are going to go for the pull onto the Pyro, though. It's really only Pegon once again to go for the steal. Does not have the damage and doesn't even want to step forward. Has to back up. So a double Runic Bomb in pocket for PolarBearMike. And you're right, Fire Giant is started up. You got double Runic Bombs. Someone has to step up here. The Oni Warriors, they don't want to go for a steal. They want to go for a fight.
Might have to find a very appropriate kill onto Mike as the target. Pegon isolates LASBRA in the jungle. Taunt going to be good, but it's a 2v2. Nika, LASBRA versus the rest. Fire Giant goes the way of the Dragons. Burn needs to be there if you want the kill. Pegon, though, is the one that falls first, and it looks like the Dragons not only able to get out of here, might turn things around. Nika moving forward, has the transformation, is chasing him down. Vote, LASBRA trying to find the right path to cut him off, and Jake is going to be the one who walks away, and they turn their eyes towards Netrioid, turn their eyes towards Sot. They kill off the solo laner for the Warriors. 2 gone on the order side, and now the siege begins in true for the Dragons. Tier 1 in mid, out of there. Tier 2 gonna follow shortly thereafter, and they have their eyes set on the Phoenix.
Yep, no ultimates available for the Warriors. They just have to sit here and watch and hope their sustain is enough. It will not be. This Phoenix certainly drops down. Panitom teleported in, but he's gonna have to watch as the Jade Dragons full-on retreat off of an aggressive Pyromancer call turned into Fire Giant burn. And it goes their way handedly. I mean, that came out of nowhere. We see a 4-minute beacon fight into a Fire Giant pull from the Jade Dragons off of some confidence. And again, great damage coming from Vote. Not only has LASBRA been an integral part in setting up for this team fight, Nika's been diving the backline pretty consistently. But this Marty has been doing a lot of burst damage. Has been farming up slowly over in duo. All for this moment, right? Being able to rotate in. Big deal. So far it's been working out for both these ADCs, I should say, because Dardez has also been on point. Jade Dragons in their entirety. They grab the Primal Fury. They got one bird down. They can play this one as slow as they like.
Yeah, once you get one Phoenix, yeah, I mean, you still have 4 towers to knock through. I'll go ahead and make it 3. The minions decide to play, I guess, a little bit of a spoiler there. Knock one down for themselves. Gold in favor of the Dragons by quite a bit, almost 6,000. Depending on how the rest of this 2 minutes goes, it's going to be well over 6,000 by the time the Dragons are done. The 4 towers quickly become 2. And they are grouped up mostly on left. Though LASBRA, far off in the jungle on right, looking to potentially isolate and harass SoloOrTroll. Nika pressure in mid, making sure Fire Minions still get some work done. The rest of the Dragons topple a tier 2 and left. And then Trelly back to spend some well-earned gold.
And because of that, there's no more Phoenix Siege to be looked at. They've got a minute 30 left on the buff, so right side tier 2, and then
that's
probably
such a long time to work with.
Yeah, and then probably head on back to base unless they're really feeling confident to step forward. It's just you know, the conversation was 5 Fizz draft, right? 5 physical characters on the side of the Jade Dragons. Everyone on the Warriors, barring Netrioid, has built in some form of physical defense, whether it be the 3 breastplates I see from Jake, Pegon, and Panitom, or of course, you know, the plenty of defense that Sot and Awesome Jake are going to be building towards. But it hasn't been able to stop the Dragons. I mean, once that shred comes through from Marty, once everyone gets Executioner down, that sort of thing, the tanks start to be a lot less tanky, and it's actually the Oni Warriors getting aggressive here?
And they're going to chase down at least LASBRA right now. Pin is good, but Sot wants a little more knockups. You had called it. It's the main form of CC here for the Warriors, and it's enough to get that kill. Panitom's incredibly low, but Panitom has a team to peel for him, and that's going to be a second one picked up easily for the Warriors. They lose the right side Phoenix in the process, though, Trelly. A lot to sacrifice for just a couple of kills, but what can they do on the map? What kind of pressure can they get? It's a tier 2 at least. 5v3, do you want them to go for a Phoenix here?
I don't know if they're going to go for it. Looks like they feel confident. Sot still has his ultimate. He's going to step forward. It looks like the Phoenix is the call, and they're just sieging forward.
They're going to hold it. They're going to look for some damage. They're looking for Mike. Pegon taking a little more damage than maybe he would like. Netrioid, as well as Sot taking too much. The Phoenix stands, and so do the 3 surviving members of the Dragons. They thwart that attempt. And Trelly, that gives us the soft reset, maybe the hard reset for some of these teams. Fire Minions in mid being dealt with. Fire Minions on right. Going to start pouring down. Dragons respawning now. Fire Giant back in about a minute. Just enough breathing room for the Warriors to get their 2 side laners back onto the board. Try to figure out how they want to crack the eggshell that will be the Fire Giant fight.
Jade Dragons are stepping forward. They grab another Pyromancer. Remember, that was the go button last time. 2 Runic Bombs in pocket for Mike. Easy confirmation. Let's go for fire. This time around, you have 2 Phoenixes down, at least for a little bit longer. That mid-bird should be spawning in here shortly for the Oni Warriors. But still, the confirmation in favor of the Dragons, and they still have to deal, the Oni Warriors that is, with the right side minions. Those fire waves are going to be pouring forward. The Oni Warriors showed, I mean, that fight seemed like Sot was a bit out of position. They stepped forward. They recognized, hey, there's 2 over on right. They're grabbing bird. We can fight this. And they end up winning that fight. It was what they tried to do after the fight. That was a bit of an issue. They step into the Phoenix, and Dardez and Vote just do too much damage. These ADCs were able to stall out. So now SOT is trying to solo cap the beacon, but Nika and LASBRA are not going to let that one slide. And the Fire Giant's going to go untouched for the time being.
I think for the Warriors, knowledge, you need to be present for the Fire Giant, because otherwise it just goes the way of the Dragons. Whereas the Dragons, they aren't too worried about the Warriors stepping up to the FG right now. It is all about the fight, but originally all about the beacon. And it only had 2 lanes to choose from. Which one has the most structures? And that would be left as of right now, so that's where the Titans will clash, inevitably. Meanwhile, all eyes are on right, because Fire Giant, Trell, you have to assume, started up soon. A little over 2 minutes before it becomes enhanced. There's a good chance that we're waiting until then as well.
Yep. Could be the call. The Jade Dragons are the ones trying to set up an ambush, and it's only Awesome Jake on ward coverage so far. All the while, LASBRA is pushing up mid lane by himself, so could have a decent wraparound attempt if he goes unnoticed into the red buff. The Titans are going to run down left, as you said. They'll eventually equal out, but finally, Fire Giant started up, so not enhanced. And the Jade Dragons are going to get it down low. Oni Warriors see trouble. LASBRA's already in the back line.
Nika trying to do whatever he can. Burn those seems to be onto Vote.
Netrioid.
The snipes are good from Netrioid, and he finds exactly what his team needs. A little bit of zone coming from Sot. The World Serpent gets him the disengage as well. You had mentioned it, LASBRA deep over on left. He's going to have to make a call here. Does he go back for the fight, especially now that the Warriors will be the ones starting up the FG? And the answer to that seems to be yes. Netrioid throws his DPS towards the objective. LASBRA going to be walking around back. Pegon spots him out. Pegon goes in for the fight. Pegon might not be wanting this one, though. A lot of good coming from LASBRA, and that's the ult away from the mid laner for the Warriors. Fire Giant goes towards the Order team, but now can they survive the onslaught of the Dragons? Yes, not only survive, but then thrive. Kills galore as they pour into the laps of the Warriors. All 5 dead. It's a deicide, and the Warriors running straight down mid, but the Titans, they can't end right now.
Gotta get the
have
Titan
to go fight.
SOT just put his hands in his head. He knows he's got to go deal with the Titan first. Someone's going to go kill it all the while. Trying to go up for the mid Phoenix. Not going to be easy. Remember, Vote died from the snipes. He had to use Aegis, but still had death from above. He's got it available. Try and push off this Phoenix, and it looks like that's going to be the call. The Oni Warriors take care of the Titan. And I imagine push up left lane. Even though it's a 5v1, it's not easy to try and go in and kill this Marty straight up into the sky.
Has to play carefully here. 2 assassins waiting for you on landing. But the Phoenix, it's doing a lot of damage. The Phoenix is putting in some work with Vote, and it helps kill off and negate one Fire Giant buff. Does exactly what he needs. He had the ult, he had the beats. And Trelly, Vote lives to see another day. It's a tier 2 and retreat for the Warriors.
Yeah, didn't love that call. I mean, you're split up. It's a 2v1, but with Death from Above available, it's such a stall tool. There's no one traditionally tanky that's going to be able to hold on to that Phoenix aggro. And because of that, the Oni Warriors don't really get too much off the Fire Giants so far. The tier 2 on left is nice, but remember, right side bird is down. Those fire minions are going to endlessly push, so if you wanted to push up a lane, you would want it to be the right one. Pegon's still gone for 15 seconds, and the Jade Dragons are sieging forward. A blink in from Nika, and LASBRA's here as well.
Immunity from Jake. Makes sure that things don't go too awry too quickly, but the Aphrodite's taking a lot of damage. Does walk out of this one alive. Has to fall back. Healing is going to be helpful. The snipes. Doesn't look like there's going to be a kill from this one, but it is enough to slow down that siege attempt onto the mid Phoenix. Thwart the Dragons' attempts. What felt like a game-winning play for the Warriors. Unfortunate for them that the Titans were out, doing their own little tango in left. Now, Primal Fury started up and should be good for the Dragons. Panitom's going to step up, throw a little damage out there, not able to steal it. Even teleports in, pulls Mike around, has Jake and the rest of the Warriors. They might be looking for a fight.
They might be. Remember, the right side minions are pushing forward. If the Jade Dragons retreat, that should be it. And the Oni Warriors do not seem to have a care in the world. Finally end up going back to base. Only 1 minute and 20 seconds left on this Fire Giant push. So retreating is the smart call. Deal with those right side waves. Maybe group up for a Pyromancer so you've got some decent steal attempt on the FG. Because it's been a lot of the Jade Dragons stepping forward, relying on those runic bombs, being able to find easy confirmation towards the objectives. But Panitom has the Typhoon now, which is a pretty decent attempt to try and contest with what that runic bomb wants to do. And the right side wave is right next to Fire Giant, so it's not the biggest deal. I'm trying to go in for the confirmation here. The Oni Warriors are able to equalize a bit of what the Jade Dragons are able to do. They win that fight handedly, are not able to get as much as they would have liked. We saw them pop off in the booth. They definitely thought the game was over there, and they realized that the Titans were gone. Because of that, they're going to have aggressive positioning towards the Fire Giant at the very least. LASBRA tried to loop around. He was trying to get to the back line, but the Warriors aren't going to let that one slide. Now Panitom is sitting in mid lane, just making sure he's got tabs on this Erlang Shen. Pyromancer goes down, so now that Runic Bomb situation is finally equalized. And look at the tanks just sieging forward once again. They just want fights, Gore. The Oni Warriors, if they didn't have to go for the Fire Giant, they wouldn't.
And honestly, we've seen at least, I believe it was a Raven set towards the end of the phase. Sometimes they'll go for Fire Giant even if they think they're going to lose it because it means a fight.
Yep.
And that could be the position we are in. I'm sure, however, when you start to lean back, you maybe talk to Coach Oxy, all of a sudden it's a lot more stressful, right? Having to watch these guys play. They're all mechanically gifted. And I think we've seen that plenty of times throughout all of this. The biggest standing point right now has to be SOT, right? 1, 5, and 7. It's the worst slash line in the game as of right now, but definitely for the team. Majority of the kills the Dragons have are onto the Yorm. But Trelly, that's slowed down quite a bit as the game has gone on. It's not impossible to still melt him, but those kills were mostly happening very early, under towers. You know, one of them was under the tier 1 and right, one was in the tier 1 and mid. And he's got to play carefully here so I don't caster's curse him immediately into another death. It feels like he is a linchpin, though, for the success of the Warriors.
No doubt. He doesn't have beads. You can tell LASBRA wanted to blink in there and find a taunt, but if SOT just uses the ultimate to try to immune it and then is able to dive, it can be a bit annoying. You just have to watch out because he hasn't built too tanky, right? He still does have plenty of defense items, but he's got a lot of damage done as well. And in the face of Dardez and Vote, could get shredded through very easily. Finally, the fire waves are dealt with, but look at this once again, the Warriors. They siege forward, not as if they're going for a pull or a bait in. It's because they want to scrap. Even if it's in the enemy jungle, they will step forward. They want blood.
We know they have an advantage. I thought for sure we were about to see Panitom lead the way, lead the charge. Maybe find a massive knockup, massive kills against the Dragons. Titan's in the room now. They get another deicide. It's just done. The same can be said the other way around. Dragons, one good fight away from pushing us to Game 5. Enhanced Fire Giant on the board, Shelly. For the Dragons, though, in their red buff. Matched by 5 of the Warriors. Damage onto Nika. Pretty solid as an engage, but it's going to be elsewhere that the Warriors look to get things done. Knock up, not going to connect from Pegon. Neither is the ult, but he has the autos afterward. Vote tries to get away, but the CC should be there. The snipes are there. The damage is there. And once again, Vote, first one off the board. Warriors not even bothering to fall back immediately. Still playing aggressive. Now they recognize. Have the numbers advantage, have the damage advantage. Not necessarily the vision advantage, but who needs that? You're going to have the Enhanced Fire Giant, barring some miracle from the Dragons.
Now that should be guaranteed. The Jade Dragons do not want to step forward. They will try and grab an Oni Fury in the meantime, but look at this. SOT and Pegon don't want to let this one go for free. SOT's Invis. Pegon doesn't have Blink or Ultimate, so it's just going to be to push them off the objective. I thought maybe would go in for an ambush. Enhanced Fire Giant goes down. Remember, Vote lost his ult. He lost both relics. Of course, Death from Above will be back up when he spawns in, but you've lost both of your survivability tools if you're the Marty. It's not going to be easy to try and stand at the forefront of this fight. You're going to be probably sitting pretty far back if you're Vote without either relics, because look at the dive. I mean, it's going to be SOT from the sky and 2 assassins running right at you.
The Warriors looking for set number 15 in their streak. And right now they're finding it through damage on Nika. Good knockup as well from Panitom. Finds 3. LASBRA in the midst of all 5. The damage is there. And Netrioid finds the kill. SOT tanking up the Phoenix. And the Phoenix goes down. Enhanced Fire Giant putting a little bit of effort in for the Warriors right now. And that healing, Shelly, it always comes back to it. 1 off the board. Traded out for 1 more back on Vote here. The defense on the left side, Phoenix, is going to be standing for the Dragons.
Yep, SOT teleporter back in. No wards immediately, so had to go towards mid lane, but still is able to make the rotation over. All the while, Pegon is trying to find a wraparound. Looks like Left Bird gets given up for absolute free. The Jade Dragons have to try and keep their base alive if they want their hopes to go to the Masters Finals, not to die here.
A lot of pressure on them. It seems like that pressure might be self-imposed, at least for a moment. The Warriors let off a little on the base. There's still a tier 2 standing over in right. They can go take quick work of that. Trelly, the base, the last Phoenix. 9 seconds before LASBRA is back. Maybe the opportunity to crack open this shell. 2.5 minutes on the Enhanced Fire Giant, and they're going to pick up all 3 birds. But they know better than to try and dive into the Titan room, dive into the full force of the Dragons. So with now 5,000 gold in their favor, 12-8, and 38 minutes in, the Warriors back away with 3 lanes of fire minions and a massive advantage.
The Jade Dragons are stepping forward. It doesn't look like they're just retreating. In fact, LASBRA might walk into an ambush here. Doesn't end up doing so. Either way, the Jade Dragons were stepping forward, right? They want to try and take a fight. This is the same situation as last game. They had to try and take a fight, not in their Titan room. Their Titan is full HP, so it wouldn't be easy to try and just go for the all-in. But you don't want to give that opportunity if you can help it. I'm trying to look at their win condition here. A nice blink in from LASBRA has usually been the engage, but last time that happened, he ended up just getting shredded. Vote and Dardez couldn't really close that gap and try and follow up. These ADCs, they've got good range, but anytime they're in auto attack distance, Panitom and Pegon are there, and that's a bit of a problem. So they have to stay as far back as possible, and because of that, the Blink 9 turns blessings, the Blink knockups from Nika, those sort of CC plays are not the easiest to try and follow up on, even with the amount of range that Martichoras or a ranged auto attack from Dardez can provide. 3 birds down, all waves pushing forward. The Oni Warriors have just a bit more time on this Fire Giant buff to try and go in for an end call.
Panitom popped a 3k pot. So has a lot of damage, and is looking to use it alongside Pegon. LASBRA caught out, needs a little more, and Pegon is able to find it. Knockup, gonna be good, but Panitom loses his life in the process. Dardez getting chased down. Dardez makes it back to the fountain. The snipes not on the mark, and now Pegon's gone. The Dragons making a defense that they needed here to keep their Titan alive. They push the Warriors back, but now the enhanced fire minions walking in lane with the 3 left. They just don't have the damage, Trelly. Dragons, they might not find any advance. They are going to find enough. Sop backs, teleports in. Maybe they're looking for a little more. The enhanced
This is risky.
Aren't going to do too much. A 3v4. You only have 1 carry to work with. I like the call. Fall back. Maybe need to do it a little sooner, but they're going to be safe-ish. Continue playing aggressive, but not put themselves at risk too heavily.
Yeah, the Oni Warriors really had to commit there to try and get that kill on the LASBRA. In doing so, unfortunately, Netrioid off the mark with those snipes, and Dardez was able to make it back to base. If Dardez dies, maybe you go in for the full commit to the Titan. But doesn't end up happening, and of course, the Oni Warriors are a man down. They have to retreat. And like I said before, that Fire Giant buff was not long for this world. So, another retreat call, as these Phoenixes will be coming up here shortly. If the Jade Dragons are able to stall out this enhanced Fire Giant pull, they could be looking at full Phoenixes up. And all just depends on when the Oni Warriors are able to group up for another attempt at the enhanced Fire Giant. 1 more wave of Fire Minions at least over on left. So now the Oni Warriors can play it a little bit slower, wait till someone goes over to clear that last wave, or if they don't, bird goes down. But if I know the Oni Warriors like I do, I don't think they're going to play this one slow. I think they want to step forward. They will gladly take the fight if the Jade Dragons give it to them. And look at this positioning. They're all sieging forward.
They're stepping forward. Enhanced Fire Giant is on the line. And Trelly, 41 minutes in, especially with the state of the board, all you need is this one fight. We can ignore a majority of what has led up to it and where the damage is at. Instead, see what happens. It's Nika leading the way, but the damage onto Panitom, it seems great, but it's not enough to get the kill. Instead, the turnaround is there. Pegon low and getting chased out by LASBRA. Pin is good. The Snipe's not able to help rectify this. The mid laner for the Warriors off the board. Now at 4v5. Low health bars healing for the Warriors keeps them in this engagement. They seem a little iffy on where they want to go. Vote. They can spot them thanks to the wards on the map. Nika teleports back in. It's a 5v4. A lot of utility off the board.
Yep, and because of that, the Jade Dragons did exactly what they wanted. They stalled out the enhanced Fire Giant. They have the 1-man advantage, and LASBRA's able to clear over on the left side of the map. Only Panitom's ultimate is available, but still he blinks forward and boat's gone.
It's just as easy as that, man. Panitom gets it done.
Both
and now
relics.
You've got the exact number that you want, even if you're the Warriors. Aggressive with the way they've been playing, but the carry gone for the Dragons. Nika steps forward. Nika's taking a lot of damage, dishing out a good bit as well. Panitom has to play carefully, goes in deep, looks for Dardez, needs a little help. Netrioid kills off Nika. Dardez is getting chased, but you need some more help of your Panitom. Finally, the cavalry arrives, and they're going to get rid of LASBRA for him. Double kill for Netrioid, and now not only a distinct numbers advantage, all 5 members of the Warriors alive. Granted, Pegon, going to take a little while to get here, Chelly, but I see weakened Phoenixes, and I know exactly what the Warriors are going for. 25 seconds until votes back. A lot of effort that has to go into this, but we've seen this defense work out well for the Dragons before.
Yep, Panitom's weak, but he's got the sustain, and already SOT has teleported back in. You said it, Pegon's late to the party, but PBM, he's got nowhere to dash to. Dardez finally lets him go, but he's got a horse back to base, and it's Dardez versus all of the Oni Warriors.
You've got one carry alive, knocked up, damage is good. Another one's going to take his place, just like a Hydra, but unfortunately for the Dragons, that head gets sliced off, and the win streak continues. The Warriors take this set and go to finals.
I mean, it wasn't clean. Towards the end there, I saw a lot of misplays, a lot of oversteps from the Oni Warriors, but at the very least, they get it done as per usual. Aggressively, off the back of some beautiful juke shoes from Panitom. Not only completely deleting Vote off the face of the map with both relics up. Yeah. That was nuts, number 1. Number 2, is able to juke out LASBRA just long enough for the cavalry to arrive, for Yorm to land. SOT says, don't worry, man, I got you. And once that kill doesn't come through, once the Susano does not fall, all of the wind in the Jade Dragons sail just falls through. Dardez and PBM were not able to stand up to 4 members of the Warriors.
Yeah, a lot of reaching out, poking for their opportunity from the Dragons. And unfortunately, every single time, it's just a little too shy. Even the moments, I mean, look, that defense, it went way better than I think they could have expected.
Oh, yeah.
They're able to wipe the Warriors. It keeps them alive. They manage to keep their Phoenixes at that point. It feels like the tide is shifting, but like you said, all the wind just ceases in the blink of an eye there. The Warriors still undefeated and still moving forward. We'll see them tomorrow in the finals. For now, you've seen enough of us. Kick it over to the desk to break this one down.
That's right, the Oni Warriors keep up their undefeated streak, 15-0 now in their sets from the inception of this team until now, have not dropped a single set of SMITE here in competitive play, and a win up here against Jade Dragons now puts them in the grand finals. Again, that will be played tomorrow, so make sure you're tuning in to watch the finals of the Oni Warriors. Obviously, still keep around, we have another set, but this game was back and forth, Miff. It felt like at any point either of these teams could take a win out there. The Jade Dragons able to find some good positions through this one, take a Phoenix to try and distract, throw the Titans out into combat to delay the game a little bit longer. But it felt like a lot of those tactics were more stall than anything. Give themselves time to get their items online to see if they can stand up to the Warriors.
Yeah, they performed, the Jade Dragons, that is, much better than I expected with a 5 physical composition. Once I saw, like, the Sovereignty stacked up, a lot of defense on just about everybody else, the Aphrodite and how her defense share works, I had just thought, well, there's not going to be a single team fight that the Jade Dragons can win from this point, especially considering the Oni Warriors had taken a few of those early game skirmishes in their favor. But the base defense from the Jade Dragons was just great. And as you said, finding those opportunities on map, even if they are reactive and perhaps even pacifistic, still able to make something happen, expose win conditions, one misstep, and maybe the Jade Dragons would have found a victory here. But I would argue they made it very difficult for themselves through composition, whereas the Oni Warriors made it very easy for themselves and win out on the day. Oni Warriors, of course, deserve every bit of credit that you can give them. I spent a whole lot of time talking about the Jade Dragons, but make no mistake, this is an Oni Warriors victory, not a Jade Dragons loss. Panitom absolutely decimates the backline. Netrioid finds, I believe, 2 separate occasions this game where he just starts off a fight by removing somebody with his ultimate and just simplifies the engagement for the rest of his team. SOT was infinitely disruptive. Awesome Jake, always there to peel out for who needed it. So, Oni Warriors, you got to give them every bit of the credit that you can, and they deserve all of it.
Man, after over 40 minutes of gameplay, we end with a 0-0-13 for Awesome Jake on the Aphrodite. Not to mention 25,000 healing. Not damage, healing that Jake was able to do on top of the 15,000 that he was able to put out over in that support role. And it's one of the reasons why he's still finding success on a pick like this, and one of the only supports in the league who is finding consistent wins on the Aphrodite. But I think you're right to also sing some of the praise of SOT. Though stepping out of position a couple of times, maybe too many, was really able to get some massive damage numbers out there, topping the charts for the entire lobby at 52,000 on the Yorm. This E-Staff put in so much work. At one point, I was starting to see pretty much just a black health bar at that point because it was just that many notches of extra HP that this guy had. It felt like it was so tough to kill him in these late game fights.
Yeah, 2, 5, and 13, a slash line that does not accurately reflect how impactful SOT was in this game. That Jormungandr just was doing everything. So often survived at sub 300 HP, maybe because he was able to stack up so much of that physical defense, but still all the while putting out that amount of damage, just huge impact.
And one of the players who's had a huge impact during this set and has had a great performance on his picks has been Netrioid. And fortunate for us, he's standing by for our post-game interview.
That's right, I've got Netrioid standing here, and I'm going to start at the beginning of that set because the game one was very overwhelmingly in favor of Dragon. So I kind of want to know the team mentality in that game. What was everybody feeling, and what was it that you did to adjust going into game two?
Well, this is gonna sound like kind of maybe copium, as people say. We were coming to this best of 5 saying we're gonna experiment game one. We're gonna like study how they wanna play, and we're just gonna pick like normal stuff just for the moment, and yeah, just see how they wanted to play. I think they were looking for pressure, but when I feel like when a team tries to play pressure against us, we're just gonna like come on top of that. So.
Well, hey, tested the waters, and obviously you figured something out, right? Because then game two, you reversed the script. All of a sudden, I think it was 8-0 by the end of it. You had every single neutral objective. Things go really well in game two. They go really well in game three. Then game four comes around. It's a lot shakier, a lot more back and forth. By the end, you guys have some advantages going your way, but still some moments that feel like it's slipping through your fingers. What do you do when you're in a 45-minute game? You know things are like on the line for you, potentially having to go to another. How did the team like grip up and seal the deal?
Oh man, I can tell you it's exhausting. Like as a player playing a tournament, like something really important that you want to win right now, like going into a best of 5 against a good team like Dragons. Of course, it's like exhausting, but I feel like we do a pretty good job on like getting the emotions like together. Yeah. Because I feel like sometimes you can like get so emotional in a team fight that everyone is shouting. And if everyone is shouting, comms become like kind of like bad, you know, and you cannot hear anything. So I feel like we try to adapt and we try to be as disciplined as we can because I know some of my players like to do some weird stuff on the scrims. So I feel like, yeah, we do a pretty good job. Everyone puts their part, everyone puts their effort. So I'm really happy about it.
Well, hey, you should be happy about it, right? You find the win. And that kind of brings me to what I think is the important thing, the conversation that has been having. Not only have you guys had an undefeated season, but since formation, you have been lossless in a set as far as things go. So you're going into the finals tomorrow. What would it mean to you and maybe to the boys as well to win that set?
Oh, it will be fantastic, of course. Like when we made this team, like I tried to contact everyone because I wanted to make a team as well. And I saw Pani was a free agent as well, and I've played with Pani before, right? Yeah. So it started pretty good, and everyone had their doubts, of course, like as any other new team. But I don't know, for some reason I felt like I talked to my teammates, like everyone on a call before we doing the team, and I told them like, man, we're gonna win everything this year. Like, trust me, we just need to be like disciplined. Okay, I want everyone to be disciplined, and I want everyone to put their hearts on like every game. And I feel like it's been working. Like I couldn't ask for more for like the teammates that I have right now, and I feel like they're insane, man.
I think everything you've asked for, you've gotten, right? Discipline, as well as playing their hearts out. Still one more set to go before you can maybe close out the entirety of the first half of the year, but an impressive streak and an impressive win here. Congratulations again on today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. But for now, we'll kick it back to the desk to break this out.
Yeah, making sure that they bunker down for important games like this, and especially some of these more long-winded ones, at least here for the Oni Warriors. And one of their longer games just individually they've had to play. I mean, this has been a team that's had such a fast-paced momentum throughout the entirety of their season, so getting to see them kind of draw until 40-45 minutes, a little bit uncharacteristic, but showing that they're able to hold down the fort when it comes down to the end. Let's take a look, though, at the bracket, because as mentioned, they are moving on to the grand finals, is the Oni Warriors, Jade Dragons. They'll move down into our third-place match, and if you tune in tomorrow, we'll start things out with a best-of-3 third-place match between the Dragons and then the loser of our second set coming up. The winner of our second set will then face off against the Oni Warriors. Well, who's in that second set? The Eldritch Hounds and the Styx Ferrymen are going to be facing off once more. This is a team that, during the regular phase, squared off twice because they're in the same division. Both went 2-0 against each other. Had a dead-even tie as far as set wins over the course of the phase. Head-to-head in their individual sets. Games, plus-minus, everything was completely dead-even for this team in the regular season. They run a tiebreaker match. Styx Ferrymen win. We jump over into the playoffs where these two teams had to face. Styx Ferrymen find a win. So now, for the Eldritch Hounds, trying to find a fight back for themselves and see if they can kind of reclaim some of that gusto they had at the beginning of the season against them.
It won't be easy, though. The Ferrymen are a team that have been playing with a lot of momentum recently, and a squad that have figured out a bit more of their identity. And when I say that, I make no qualm sharing that I think there's one guy in particular that everybody looks at on every single Ferryman set, and it's their jungler. Is Sino playing an assassin? Is he playing a warrior? If it is a warrior, is it working? If it is an assassin, is he playing one of the good ones, or is he playing one of the random Sino picks? It feels like so much of this team rides on him that on any given day, you could have a top-tier Ferryman, or you could have a Surt or jungle.
Well, we got a lot of questions to be answered between these two squads, so make sure that you stick around after this break. The Elder Challenge, the 6th Ferryman semifinal number 2, coming right up.